This is Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. 1620thezone.com and 1620 The Zone TV. Now, here's Gary, Matt, and
Good Wednesday morning. Hey, nothing like preparing for winter in the middle of February, right, boys?
Nothing like it. Nothing like it.
I have to first get this out of the way because I don't want to be the wimp of the show, because as people that are watching on 1620 The Zone TV can tell, I am not in studio. So let me just explain why we had to do we had a little curveball. We had to do a little crossover. Because they have canceled UNO classes today, the basketball team has to leave early to go to South Dakota for the weekend. So where we leave from is Baxter Arena, which is across the street from my house. So, you know, with the snow outside and having to leave at 9 o'clock, we had to adjust. Yeah. So I just want to, I would have been right there with you. I would have been arm in arm. We would have been comparing snow tire stories.
Sure. I just think you're a wuss. I just think you didn't want to brave the weather and you came up with this elaborate, well, you know, my other responsibilities. I'm close to the arena. I got to leave at this time.
They don't know our itinerary.
All I'm hearing is a bunch of excuses for you to sit in your nice, warm, comfortable home, not have to walk outside and get into the car like Jimmy and I so bravely had to do this morning. But it's okay. You sit in your mea culpa. You sit at home. You be soft. You have a good time. Me and Jim, we're the real radio guys, right? We're the real grinders.
Matt's going to find out he may be the only on-air personality here today.
No way.
Okay. You would have been the second, Gary. I know that because I've worked with you.
So, and by the way, they wanted to leave earlier, and I'm like, it was a very uncomfortable call last night at about 6:30 of, hey, they canceled school. They're basically booting us off the campus, so we got to go earlier. And they told me what time, and I was like, that doesn't really work with my schedule. So I got them to hang in there a little bit longer. But I want you to know, just because I don't want to be a wuss. Okay. I don't want to be considered soft. Like when I go to the glass, I want to go strong. I'm not going to get beat out by McNeely on the glass or Johnson. I did go outside to see what kind of depth we have here in the Exarban Village area.
You can still throw the ball today.
Yeah, we got a little bit of snow. We got a little bit of snow here.
My feet were slightly sinking walking. It wasn't a deep sink. It wasn't like, it's up to the ankle or anything, but you definitely could feel the bend, you know, like when you go onto a grass tennis court, you can kind of, and you jump up and down, you feel the bend a little bit of the grass. You can feel the bend a little bit of the snow. So it's there.
Meanwhile, I've said I've lived in the Midwest too long to where I walk out, it's like, it's not too bad. All right, a little cold.
Yeah, hey, it's the middle of February, and we just had winter here. So most schools are closed today. Some have remote learning. Some are like,
that is
screw it.
Ridiculous. That is so crazy.
I know. And you know, schools are getting softer. When I was in school, we never canceled. When you were in school, it was like a weekly thing. I get it.
No. I'm going to tell you right now, minimum a foot of snow had to come down in order for us to not be in school.
This is back home, right?
This is back home in Chicago.
Oh, I'm talking Nebraska.
Lincoln, a little different.
No, I'm aware. I'm very well aware. You should see what's on the ground right now, keeping the kids out of school. I am well aware that this is different from where I grew up. Where I grew up, we had 7 snow plows and 4 salt trucks on the ground before one flake of snow hit the asphalt. Here, apparently, we don't have any of that. So, yeah, there's enough snow.
I did
enough
see
for
plows
people to
driving. They listen. Good morning, guys. Thank you.
There's enough snow on the ground for people to be bad at driving today on Dodge. I even saw it. So,
there's so many differences between when I was in school and how they announce school closings. I got a thought or two, but I do. So, as people are in today and they're probably watching us on the Zone TV or on the app or wherever you're at, because it's cold outside, and if it's like bitterly cold, it's not only snowing, but it's cold here in Omaha. I know we're soft, we're wimps, we're complaining about this.
Don't fold me and Jimmy into this, okay? We're here.
It's chilly in here. It's chilly in my house.
That 87 seems a long way away in the summer.
What What are we set at right now? in your house?
We're at 71 in the house.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
low.
That is.
Yeah, but don't. But I'm about to spend 4 nights in a hotel, so don't kid yourself. When we hit Sioux Falls later today, that temp's going up about 86.
Jimmy Buffett music playing in the room, Hawaiian shirt.
But for all of you out there that are like, man, it's cold. Pitchers and catchers are reporting. I see Fat Garrett Cole on my timeline. I see the Nebraska rotation for their first 4 games. We are going to deliver to all of you today.
Yes.
We are going to go 45 minutes of uninterrupted baseball talk in the 8 o'clock hour. Ed Service, Rob Childress, Evan Porter. Creighton, Nebraska, Omaha baseball. We're going to do it. 45 minutes of uninterrupted baseball talk coming up in the 8 o'clock hour for all of the people that are cold and snowed in this morning.
That's going to be awesome. I mean, we're going to go back to back to back. Head coach, pitching coach, head coach of Nebraska baseball programs. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Going to get all the little nooks and crannies and bits and pieces of these rosters that you want to hear about and outlooks to the season and talk about, Ed Service. It's his last year of being the head coach at Omaha, a historic, storied career over 20 seasons. This is kind of his swan song, so it'll be great to hear from him. And then Evan Porter and the Omaha Mavericks, and then Rob Childress, who really this kind of turnaround that Nebraska baseball has gone under the last couple of years, like 2 seasons, leading into this massive season where they're going to be ranked, has been done, with a lot of his help. And his hiring was really a really big catalyst into the momentum they have going into this year. So it'd be great to talk to all 3 of those guys.
So we'll do that. John Walker will stop by a little bit later. Brandon Vogel. I have to tell you, last night, I loved the theater last night at the Chai. Absolutely, from the beginning when the place was bonkers to the end when Danny Hurley, my guy, I love that guy. I absolutely love that guy. He channeled his inner Klay Thompson walking off the floor after Yukon down double figures, down 14. They come back. A freshman might have had something to do with a little bit of their comeback, but they beat Creighton last night at the Chai. I love the theater. That is what competition is about. I loved every part of it, from the opening of the doors to the closing of Hurley walking off to the tunnel, still clapping at fans that did not exist because he was underneath the stands. It was a classic Big East night at the Chai.
My favorite moment my favorite Dan Hurley moment was Stephen Ashworth. There was about, I think, under 5 minutes left in the game. He's running down the court really, really fast. He bounces the ball too high. It goes up and over his hand. It's a turnover. Yukon grabs the ball. They go down to the other side, and they run a set, a beautiful top of the key set for McNeely. Comes around a couple of screens, catches the ball, hits a massive 3, right? Real momentum turner in the game. And Dan Hurley walks down the sidelines, puts his hand to his ear to a silent Chai, doesn't hear anything, then puts 3 down right in front of everybody, puts 3 fingers down like, yeah, we hit a 3 ball, and keeps walking. It was absolutely gorgeous. You're absolutely right. Working the refs all night. Not one media timeout came where he wasn't standing in the middle of the court waiting to talk to one of the referees to give him a piece of his mind. It was incredible. A classic vintage Dan Hurley performance.
Oh, hey, he's the most polarizing guy in college basketball. I love him. I think he is so great for the game. He was taunted. He heard enough FU chants, and his team won a basketball game that they kind of saved their season a little bit. I mean, the doors were ready to be blown off when Ashworth does a heat check and you're up 14 and the place is blowing up. You're like, well, Yukon is done. They are cooked. And then they got back into the game with a late first half run, and then they punched Creighton in the second half early, and Creighton didn't respond. I mean, physically, they got after 1 and 11, who forgot to show up last night in a big game. But Hurley gets to do what he gets to do when you win a game like that. When you walk off the floor and sarcastically you're clapping at the fans who have taunted you for 40 minutes, and then you point and go 2 rings. That's part of competition. That's part of the theater. I loved it last night. That's what Big East basketball is all about. And I know a majority of the people don't agree with me on the outcome because Creighton had their 9-game winning streak snap. I thought that was great for college basketball last night. I loved every bit of it. The good, the bad, the beginning, the end, everything in between. Now, there are parts that are not good, but then there are parts where you tip your cap and go, damn, Liam McNeely. We talked about it yesterday, Matt, on the show extensively with our guest, Joe Arruda, about what McNeely has to do. White boy was on one last night. I mean, that's an historic night for a Yukon freshman.
Arruda kind of called it too. I mean, Arruda said right on the show, like, Liam's got to play well. Like, Liam's got to step up. And Diarra, let me tell you something right now. That knee that he's nursing an injury with right now is toast. I mean, he was limping. Yeah. He did not, and they had to go a lot to Aiden Mahaney, who had to play a ton in that game. I think more than what they were anticipating. I think, look, college basketball in its history has never lacked villainy, right? There's always been villains in college basketball.
It makes it
right?
better.
And that's kind of
a word. I think you made up a word. Villainy?
Villainy is
I kind of like that. I kind of like that.
You've always, and especially coaches too, have always been the villains of college basketball, right? And I think college basketball has been missing that for the last couple of years, with Krzyzewski gone and Calipari and Kentucky not really being there, and Rick Pitino being an Iona. Now he's back in the fold of St. John's,
to be enhanced.
But he's more so of a hero. Dan Hurley is the villain that college basketball needs. Yeah. And the beauty of it all is that Dan Hurley is the villain who wins. He's a back-to-back 2-time national champion,
and he leans into it.
And he knows what he's doing, and he knows he's being a not lower the belt.
He's a troll D-bag with a really good basketball program.
With a really good basketball program that everybody can hate, that everyone can rally around, being like, I want to beat this guy.
How about his
hoodie?
And
it's really good for college basketball. And so he came into the Chai yesterday, a place that he hasn't won in. And he won, and he let everybody know about it. And you know what? Next year, when he comes to the Chai again, it'll be even louder, and it'll be even more rowdy. And it'll probably be 50-cent beer night because they want more people to be drunk and yelling at him. So it's great for the game. I'm not trying. I know that Blue Jays fans are probably rolling their eyes so far back into their head right now listening to this conversation.
Though. I got
you.
It's a league. Come on now. It's that's Big East basketball is in a really, really good spot with coaches. There were two of the best coaches in the profession were going at each other last night.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's what you sign up for in the Big East. Look at back-to-back bangers in that building from Marquette to Yukon. Now, there's a lot in the game last night that doesn't have to just do with Liam McNeely. He was unconscious. And he also is a perfect Yukon guy because he's flailing around and he's talking trash to the people that are sitting courtside while he's roasting Creighton. But there were a couple of moments in that game. The burst to get up 14. When you had, Ty Davis really gave Creighton some key moments last night when Ashworth was on the bench with 2 fouls. Jason Green got off to a good start. They're up 14. The place is bumping. Okay. I thought they were going to open up dollar beer sales again after they were up 14. Yukon, with their run at the end of the first half and their run at the beginning of the second half, where they punched Creighton, got them back into the game. And it went from that 14-2 run, Matt, to immediately Yukon's within a bucket. And this is a 1-possession game. I also thought when you get to that moment last night in that stage, your best have to be the best for you to win. And 1 and 11 were not the best. Ashworth had a really, really bad night. Kalkbrenner didn't touch the ball enough, and Yukon pulled it out. Still at the end, Creighton had a chance, but, man, kudos to Yukon. They came in here, chips were down, they were struggling, and they found a way to win that basketball game against, a team that's probably going to finish runner-up in the Big East and is a legit NCAA team. And, you'd never beaten them here before. I loved everything about that last night.
Mac said during the press conference, the post-game press conference, that he thought fatigue was setting in from that 15-minute mark to the 7-minute mark, and it became a slog. And I think that, when you think about Creighton, right, they're in the NCAA tournament, but it has not been a cruise to the NCAA tournament and kind of being locked in to the tourney. It has been a fight, gnash, claw, tooth your way in to being one of the 16 seeds, one of the 64 teams that are going to play in March. And I think that when Mac is saying that, his team looked a little bit tired and his team looked a little bit fatigued, and there have been a lot of games in a short amount of time, I believe it. I think that at the end of the day, though, you talk about, Kalkbrenner did not touch the ball enough, and UConn did a really good job denying him the ball in the post. Ashworth didn't hit a three yesterday. I mean, it's going to be really, really hard.
First time all year.
Yeah. It's the first time. I think he was on like a 39 or 40 game streak or something ridiculous.
He missed a free throw.
Yeah.
Which they missed a lot of key free throws.
But they had a shot at the end of the game. Like we talk about as if they lost by 10 and then, they looked terrible in the second half. They had ample opportunity to win that game. I mean, they had a possession at the very end with I don't know. I think they were confused with Ashworth and Kalkbrenner and Jemiah Neal, and and ended with Neal having the ball with 7 seconds left.
They were hunting a three at the end.
Yeah, and UConn smartly just fouls, and then Neal's got 2 free throws and a timeout, so you can say, okay, hey, make these 2 free throws. Let's call a timeout. We'll foul. We'll extend the game. Maybe give ourselves another opportunity. Out of bounds, could go and hit a 3. Well, he misses the first free throw. So then they have to call their timeout. Then they have to play the purposely miss a free throw to get a rebound and tie the game. It was just, you're right. I mean, when Kalkbrenner and Ashworth don't play well, obviously they're not going to win games. But the fact that they were still even in it, the fact that they had their shots at winning this game at the end, it proves to me that this team still has a really high ceiling, and that this team, as the season has gone on, has gotten deeper. And there have been more and more guys who you can count on to contribute, not only from a scoring standpoint, but just from a playing standpoint.
Yeah. So, I'm with you. Look, Creighton is still Creighton. Okay. They lost a game last night. And you would have looked at that game and said, how did Creighton win this game? Because look at, they got killed on the offensive glass. The blueprint to beat up Creighton was on display last night. Not everybody can do what UConn did. Not everybody has Liam McNeely who'll go off for 38. But you turn the ball over way too much. You missed free throws. And here's the big thing. And this is, the guys did look gassed. And it's the stretch that they played. And they have a couple of days off, but they got to play St. John's. Then they get that break. UConn wanted it more last night when it was go time. That's the bottom line. When you were up 14, UConn didn't roll over. Instead of Creighton putting their foot on the throat and saying, night, night, UConn responded. And that's a hell of a gutsy effort, because that team that played last night, and maybe if McNeely is healthy, that's a different story. If he's healthy throughout the season, that UConn team is not even close to their last 2 teams.
No.
So you had a chance to throw the knockout punch, and instead, kudos to UConn, kudos to Hurley. They responded, because I thought they were going to get blown out. It's 37-23. Timeout is taken. Place is going nuts. UConn can't hit a shot. Creighton is getting anything they want. Creighton's being able to steal minutes with foul trouble, and Ty Davis on the floor, who I thought was really good last night when they asked him. And UConn responded. UConn had a sense of urgency last night when it was go time. Creighton didn't. That's also the bottom line. That gives UConn a win.
I want to point something out here, because you bring up during that first half, you're like, man, like UConn kind of saved their season coming back, and it looked like Creighton was just going to blow the doors off of them, and this would be a really tough thing for them to recover on. Creighton didn't have one opportunity to blow the doors off of UConn and really put some more angst toward their season. They had 2 opportunities to do that. They had the first opportunity when they were up 14, but they had the second opportunity at the end of the game. And can you imagine? I think UConn would feel way worse about themselves if they had lost that game at the very end by 1 point, as opposed to them losing that game being blown out if Creighton kept that momentum going, right? Because if they had lost that game by 20, and Creighton just kept the momentum steamrolling from the first half into the second half. I think you could chalk it up to, look, we were playing in Omaha. It isn't really a place that we win a ton. Creighton had the hot hand. They had the crowd. They had the dollar beer night. They had everything going for them. We're going to bury the tape. We're going to keep it going. We're going to go to the Big East tournament. We're going to win some games. We'll be fine, right? But if they had lost the game at the very end by 1 point after Kalkbrenner had been not so good and Ashworth had been not so good and they still lost that game, they had Liam McNeely score 38 points and they still lost that game, I think that would have been more detrimental to them as a team and for them for the rest of the season. So UConn not only just dialed in the first half to cut it to 8 and then the beginning of the second half to really make it a game, they dialed in at the end because they were like, there is no way we are going to let this game and let this historic performance from our freshmen, be a loser. We are going to make sure we win this game. And you're absolutely right. At the very end, when push came to shove, they were the tougher team. They were the faster team, and they were playing great defense.
23 points in the second half for McNeely. I mean, he had 38. That's an historic night for what he did. And, I mean, Caravan wasn't very good. That's
no one else was very good. It was him.
No, except on the glass. Like Creighton got beat up on the glass for the second straight game. And, I think the physicality of UConn really weared on Creighton. And, like Ashworth was bothered by the length. But that kind of stuff isn't new. We've been talking about that all season. And you can overcome that when you hit shots. There was an 8-minute stretch of just god-awful offensive basketball for Creighton that also did him in.
I do want to point out, bringing it back to Hurley, because I know we make a lot about the hoopla and the trash talking and working the referees, but there was a great moment in the first half where McNeely had a really bad turnover. I don't know if you remember this, but a really bad turnover working the baseline. He was going baseline, the ball bounces off his leg, really ugly turnover going the other way for Creighton. And Hurley yells at him, Liam. And Liam runs over to him. And Hurley puts his, hand over his mouth, which is coach term for I'm saying some pretty, mean, rough, kind of tough love stuff to you right now, right? And so he's yelling to him with his hand over his mouth, and McNeely is towering over him, shaking his head. And then what happens? The very next possession, they draw up a play for McNeely, and he takes a shot. And that's where it really started. The fact that he made a terrible turnover. And Hurley called him over, said something to him, and then called a play for him the very next possession, reissuing that trust to him, saying, hey, I trust you. I know we need you. I know that if we're going to win this game, you got to be the one taking the shots. You got to be the one scoring the points. That is why he's a two-time national champion. That's why he gets to walk off the court and point at 2 fingers. It's moments like that where, you can say that he's this theatrical villainy character, but that moment proved why he is the coach that we think he is.
I love Dan Hurley. I think Dan Hurley is great. I think
we need a villain. We need someone to hate. We need someone to be like F you, and he's the guy.
In this conference, okay. So last night, again, I call it theater. That's why you play in the Big East, to have nights like that where you get Creighton and Yukon on that stage, and the place was bonkers. It was everything that is special about college basketball. You got Mac buying 60 pizzas before the game. You got the students lined up. They were giving it to UConn from the time they walked out of the tunnel. They were giving it to Hurley the entire game. We'll get to the notice that they got on all of their seats as students. But you had the dollar beer night. You had the crowd was into it. You had big-time shot making. You had twists and turns. That's why you're in the Big East, to play those kind of games. It's competition. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Now, the bigger question is, as I saw your tweet, we probably park in different areas. So as a man of many experiences at the Chai and the getting in and out of either a large parking lot or a secret spot, you got to have a plan because, got a couple of streets that are blocked off around the arena. It'll take forever. I know it took you a while to get home, and you live not very far from the arena. No. But let's go back. Let's go back to when young Matt walked into the building last night, and everybody partaked in the dollar beer. did you ever get to the front of the line that seemed to wrap around the chai and then went out the door and went around the TD Ameritrade?
So I was cheated. Okay. And I was part of a
Or at
group
the
of people
Chuck.
that I believe that I was cheated. Okay. So I walk into the building. Okay. And I got there at 6:33. Okay. Now,
A man with a plan.
I walk in at 6:33 and they opened the damn doors for the students while I am walking. So I am walking. I'm gingerly pacing. And these just animals start sprinting past me,
Buffalo.
going up the stairs, walking up the escalator, trampling people on the way to the ticketing, right? So I get up there, I start getting a little pep in my step. They scan my ticket, and I go, okay, I have to go to a wristband area, right? So I wait in the line to get a wristband. But while I'm waiting in this long line to get a wristband, the line for beer is stacking up behind me. So I get my wristband, and then I get into what I think is the beer line. They're like, no, you got to walk all the way down. So I got there at 6:33, but I was like, no joke, 15 sections away from where the beer was supposed to be. And then I see this little lady walking around giving away wristbands in the line. So I didn't even have to wait in the wristband line. I could have just went straight to the beer line and gotten a wristband there. And while I am waiting in the back of this line, there are people who are walking from the front to the back who already have 2 beers. I'm like, you got to be kidding. Okay. So I waited 45 minutes to get 2 Bud Lights. Okay. I got there at 6:33. I was in the beer line at 6:40. I didn't get my beer till 7:15. I honestly never again.
Just spend the extra money and get the bigger beer.
Exactly.
And get what you want to
You know
drink.
what? You knew where I was sitting yesterday. I was in a pretty nice area. I could have just went right to that area and very much enjoyed myself there. I would have had a better time. But you know what?
They would have fanned you.
I did it.
Pampered you.
I can say that I partaked in dollar beer night. I am no longer a rookie. Next year, I will be ready. I will know what I need to do. I'll get there at 6:28. I'll just go right to the beer line. I'll get my wristband, and I'll get my 2 beers, and I'll go to my seats.
Or he'll go to Let It Fly and just have 4 before
by the way,
game.
there was some debauchery up in the front. There were people cutting. There were people who were using the political pole in order to cut this line.
It is a wealthy school.
There was a lot of people who I saw in front of me who were like, oh, I just happened to see my friend from 4th period math. Oh, hey, how you doing? And they just get right in front of me. And then all of a sudden, a big group of people who barely know people are up and ahead. It was ridiculous.
Did you not have a wingman?
No, I was by myself.
You gotta take a wingman.
It was by myself.
You double fisted?
I double fisted. I got 2 beers.
Nice.
And then I chugged them, and then I got my fairy nectar.
There you go.
And then I went right to my seats. And hey, I was still sitting down in my seats half an hour before the game, which is how I like to do it. You know, I'm old school. I like to sit down. I like to, get the warm up in, taking the scenes and whatnot. See my boy Connor Happer. And then the parking lot situation on the way out. What an absolute mess.
Where did you park?
So we had a parking pass, and we were all the way up at the front. Like, we were like 100 feet away from the building, which is nice when you get there because you just walk up right to the front. But now that I've learned, it's probably better to park in the back and get a quick out. We were probably waiting in the parking lot line for a good 35 minutes. At one point, I said, what if we hop the curb, go over the sidewalk into the other parking lot and get out that way? That's what my suggestion was to my friend who was driving. I was like, let's just hop the sidewalk and get out, like, using the other parking lot.
So were you across the street?
I was right across the street of the convention center, right across the street.
All right. That parking lot. So over in Lot D, which all of us park in for the College World Series, it's still, but I mean, by the time that we get out of the game, the parking lot is kind of cleared out unless it's a close game walk-off and people stay. That lot that you were in usually is a tough lot to get out of. Like the traffic control of getting out onto the street outside of those parking lots. And I know they've got a couple of streets that are closed off around the arena. It's worse this year than I've ever dealt with.
Gare, we were sitting, not moving, for 20 minutes. I've never seen anything like it. And by the way, like, it's well known where I come from. It's well known that I am from a very populated city in America. And I go to sporting events that I'm not trying to be, an ass about it, but more people go to than a Creighton basketball game. And I've never had to sit in a parking lot and not move for that long in my entire life. Okay? That is absolutely ridiculous.
So how would you, I want you to be the parking czar. How would you fix it? Because there's a lot of people that I know that are nodding their head in agreement with you.
Here's what I would do. I would get more people out there.
Good call,
I would get
Jimmy.
more people out there in the neon vests. Okay? And we need our toughest, angriest, loudest people working there. And I need them yelling,
nice.
go, stop, go, stop, go. I need that. That's what I need. I need our strongest people telling people, no, Camry, you stop it. So, Sonata, come through. You go here. We need more. We cannot be doing this. I'm trying to read the mind of the person driving in front of me. Do I let him in? Do I not let him in? No, we need people out there in the neon vest with hard hats on, just yelling at people. That's what I would do. Okay, and pay those people a lot of money to do it.
Hey, I've always said, I see cops that are directing traffic, like whether it be in Lincoln on game day or any event around here, and I think that is the most miserable thing to do. First of all, God. I'd be afraid. I'd be afraid somebody's going to clip me. But it's like a miserable, because no one listens to you.
No,
but you got all the power because you have the things, and then you have the whistle, and you have the badge.
Exactly. We need our strongest people out there in that parking lot. Our strongest willed and our smartest individuals out there. That's how you're going to get it done. You just need more people and more willpower and a lot of yelling and a lot of direction.
Hey, shout out Lot D. Lot D knows how to do it.
This lot that I was in, I don't know what lot I was in, but it was the stupidest thing ever. And we were just sitting there, and luckily my phone wasn't dead, so I just put on some college basketball and I just watched some games while we were waiting. But at the same time, I was like, I don't think I'm going to get out of here. We were not moving. We did not dare. I'm not kidding you. We did not move for 20 minutes. We did not put 1 ounce of pressure on the pedal. We were just sitting.
So what time was it when you crawled into bed and you're all onesied up and comfortable?
The game didn't get over till like 10:20.
No.
Yeah.
The last two minutes took forever.
Here, let me tell you my tweet, because I tweeted something, because like a sicko, I didn't just go home and go to bed. I started watching the Northwestern Wildcats play the Oregon Ducks on my phone. 11:18 p.m.
That's not too bad.
Is when I was officially in my bed. So
I mean, the parking lot thing is bad.
And then I started watching the Cats, who made a good effort yesterday.
They did come back. They were down big at halftime.
They got absolutely.
So he's on
shafted.
sharp hours today.
Oregon shot 28 free throws to Northwestern's 10. Just an absolute embarrassment. Just Big Ten referees, and we had the Wyndham coming out party. We should have won that game.
All right, coming up on the shows, we mentioned coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, we got 45 minutes of uninterrupted baseball talk. Ed Service, Rob Childress, Evan Porter. What else do you need? John Walker will stop by with some thoughts from last night. He had to be one of the last people to leave the chai from the World Herald. And then Brandon Vogel stops by. That's the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard.
I bet John Walker got out of the parking lot pretty quickly, though. John Walker probably
because he leaves and there's nobody there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a spot that I park that you have to go quick. So when the game is over, man, you got to have a plan. It's not like G-Fed on TikTok that tries to see how long he can stay in an arena. No, it's G Sharp who is like, I'm mowing down old ladies, run into my car. I park in a strategic spot. So I don't care if I have to walk a long way to get into the arena or walk a long way to get to my car. I know when I get to my car, I'm right there in the front, boom, in, the merge, and then I'm out.
I know we got to get to a break. I know we got to get to a break, but what I love about you and I's relationship here is that that these are struggles that I was probably going to go through. That I am not, I'm new here.
That's what I was thinking the whole time.
Ins and outs, and that you could probably easily tell me, hey, parking lot gets a little bit weird. Park here, do this or do that. I love how you let me struggle.
You don't learn.
You let me go through my faults, and you let me make my mistakes.
Yeah.
And then you go, all right, kid, this is what you got to do. Here's where you got to park next.
I was going to text you.
I appreciate that.
So if the game wasn't tight, I was going to text you that, hey, I know you don't want to be that guy, but you got to understand that once this game is over, you got to get out of there. Or if by chance you can get to the concourse to watch the end so that when the buzzer sounds, boom, you're out. But it was a close game, so I knew you were going to stay the entire time.
Yeah.
Would you have done it if he told you?
No, absolutely
I didn't think
not.
so.
I've never
Yeah.
in all the years of going to games, I've only left 2 games early in my entire life.
And
So
last
there
night
You would have
was
left
not
the
one of
UC last night at halftime.
Yeah. Only left 2 games. I'm not
the Bulls,
not a-
Bulls only got beat by 40. That's okay.
they're
by
so bad. They're so
Detroit basketball.
They're
All right, you have the
so bad.
lineup. It's brought to you by the rooferys of John Higgins Weather Guard. Good morning, everybody. You're all in today. It's snowing outside. The streets are a little bit slick, but our friends, the snow plowers, are out and about. So we'll keep you nice and toasty until 10. Great lineup, great discussion. We got more from last night and also a banger of a night delivered in college basketball. We're off and running on a Wednesday. Happy hump day, everybody. Gary, Matt, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in on a snowy Wednesday, split show. Because I was advised to stay home, I've stayed home.
soft.
I'm not soft. I had nothing to do with it. I am at the mercy of the Omaha men's basketball program, which I'm very happy to be involved with.
You are hence known as Gary Sharman today. Not Gary Sharp, Gary Sharman.
I think in my time here, you've only missed one day because of snow, because it was like horrifically bad.
Really? You actually missed a day because of snow?
Well,
before?
he was at the home studio, but yeah,
No,
most times he's in here.
I would be right there with you guys. It just works out better when they are leaving for me to be on the show till 9 and then go across the street.
Okay.
If not, I would have to leave earlier, and I would miss our 45 minutes of uninterrupted college baseball talk in the 8 o'clock hour. I'd be very sad.
From the desk of Adam Schefter, when the NFL sits down to mull its options for the 2025 regular season opener, the Bears at Eagles will have a compelling case. Oh boy! Guess who's coming? Guess who's coming? Caleb's coming. He's coming. Come on. What did I tell you, Sharpie? You were trying to sell me. Detroit at Philadelphia. Detroit. No. I'm telling you, man. I cannot wait. I'm already counting down the days. Because we love you. Is that your mug? Is that your mug of the day?
That's from my good friends at Woodhouse.
Oh, okay.
Last night, whether it be right here in Omaha, in the middle of America somewhere. Hey, I did not see Yukon. Usually they are Richard heads with their social media game when it comes to Omaha. Did they tweet anything out last night?
Acorn.
I did not see anything hit my phone about it, which probably which probably communicates that it wasn't that bad, because if it was bad, it definitely would be surfacing. This says Omaha Dub.
Omaha Dub. Yeah, that's boring.
That's just it.
There's no corn. There's no reference to how we are Midwestern hicks here, according to people in Stores, Connecticut, a town of about 18,000.
Nope.
Okay.
It's just now there is
Liam
like
McNeely had a good game. They tweeted about that.
Yeah. The comments are pretty funny. Like there's some good like GIFs and like memes and stuff about McNeely and Hurley, but it's just
it was tame.
Honestly, it's kind of a crappy graphic too. I don't know. I don't really like how they made this graphic. I'm kind of unimpressed by.
There was more trolling from Dan Hurley's hoodie.
Yeah.
Well, yes, and I think also the local media that got shots of Hurley on the floor at the end of the game. I don't understand this. One thing, okay, so the great Jake Ryan is the PA announcer at the Chai. Why did he announce that was the first time Yukon had won in Omaha? Did he need to do that when he gave the final score? No. Okay. So
that's like your Harold Miner
I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why Jake did that. But like you may have bolted quickly. I did see this. So the local media went immediately on the floor at the end of the game. First of all, they wanted to see the handshake between Hurley and Mack, and it was good. It was good. They get along, and they're two of the best in the biz. So, but the media stayed on the floor because CBS Sports Network. And I know a lot of people are happy that Steve Lapis is not going to do another Creighton game this year. I was getting texts about this guy is terrible. And I said, it's CBS Sports Network. What do you expect?
What do you expect?
Okay. The Big East should not be on CBS Sports Network. But so the media waited on the floor for Hurley, and they were interviewing Evan Washburn, who, by the way, is a huge dude.
He was a big guy.
Yeah, he is a big dude.
I didn't realize how big he was. I saw him. He was walking by, and I go, that's a I didn't know. I didn't know Wash was that tall.
So he interviewed McNeely, and then they interviewed Hurley, and all the media were waiting on the floor. And that's when Hurley walks off the floor and is doing. First of all, he was waving to everybody in the arena, and then behind the Yukon bench as he's walking towards the tunnel, people are giving him the business. I mean, the whole night was "F-U Hurley" chants, and he is clapping, and then that's where he does the points to Klay Thompson 2 rings. But yeah, that read the comments on all of the video that's been shared by the local media that had that, and they got the audio. But the one that I saw, and I don't remember what media outlet it was. So Hurley walks into the tunnel, and he's still walking, and he's still doing that, and he's clapping to no one. There's no one in the tunnel.
There is no one there. There is 0 people there. Like, I was like, what is he? Because part of me is like, all right, this guy, it's a little like Roman theater, right? Like Colosseum, type theater. Like he knows the audience. He knows what he's playing to. He sees the cameras, right? So I'm like, all right, it's a little bit of an act, which is fine. No one is dissing him because it's a bit of an act. But then when I saw the video of him getting into the tunnel and doing that, I go, this guy actually is a psycho. Like, I don't think it is an act. I don't think he is playing toward the camera. Like, I think this is just how he interacts on a daily basis. Like, this is how he is just all the time. And you know what? I probably dig it even more that he's actually crazy and he's not playing it up a bit, So it was great.
Well, he got a meme, so he has the sarcastic thumbs up.
Yeah.
That he did during the game that I saw on the video board. Jeff writes in to the Equitable Bank inbox. Be curious to hear Doug's thoughts on last night's game. The Equitable Bank inbox, where they take banking personally, 2 fine locations. Wish I could have been there last night. See the sad faces walking out of the arena on a snowy, cold night. That is Jeff, by the way, in Arizona.
He's literally, I am watching this video. He is pumping up nobody. It is an empty hallway. And he is throwing up his hands, saying, let's go, as if he's walking through Store, Connecticut in a parade. But it's literally just an empty hallway and one security guard who is just a really big human who's just standing there very, intimidatingly.
If you give it to him, you got to expect him to give it back.
Absolutely.
And he was really good in the post-game press conference. He was very complimentary of Creighton and especially Kalkbrenner, which – it's 2 straight post-game pressers from Shaka Smart and Dan Hurley that are like, how in the F is Kalkbrenner still in college? And I can't wait for him to get out. And I'm going to come back in May when they have graduation just to make sure that Kalkbrenner leaves or whatever. Joey writes in, you know how I feel about heckling from fans. Not my thing personally, but I love the drama. I called it theater. All I say is if you talk that talk, your team better back it up, which Hurley's team did. If you lose, tip your cap and keep it moving. His team won, so he can now say what he wants on the way off the court, wave to the crowd, all of it. No complaints, Creighton fans. You brought it. He finished it.
It's great. This is great. I mean, all these comments are just absolutely like calling him a clown and a Richard and like a douchebag and everything like that. Like, it's great.
But that's the Big East. You have, when you are at the top where Yukon is and you are where Creighton is, that is fantastic. This wasn't Creighton Seton Hall on a Tuesday night. Okay. No. This was big time. And Creighton went all in on the game with all of the promotion. It was great. It was fantastic. That's Big East basketball. I loved every minute of it. I thought it was great. I thought it is a really good rivalry. And you know what? Strangely, Creighton goes to Gamble and wins. Yukon comes to the Chai and wins.
He said at the end of the game, I just wish there was more people still here. I just wish that there was still more of them left. There's been a lot more of them left when I've lost.
The weather was less than ideal. They had to get home.
He did make one key thing. You brought it up earlier how the game changed. I mean, that 14-2 run by Creighton, I'm like, they're going to do what they did last year. They're going to blow them out because nothing was going right for Yukon. I mean, McNeely hadn't started to kick it into gear yet. No. Caravan was terrible last night. He was brutal. Then there was a moment where, of course, Yukon gets back into the game in the middle 8, so to speak, but it basically was the middle 6. The last 2-3 minutes of the first half and then the beginning of the second half. Creighton had got it. I think it was, I wrote it down on my phone. I think it was 51-46 or 51-48. Creighton, I think, had made a one possession game. And the crowd was back into it. Hurley took a timeout that I thought was pretty important because it killed the energy in the building.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they went to a promotion on the floor and the crowd didn't have that same buzz. And he knew exactly what he was doing when he took that timeout. So he really coached his team through that game last night. And then they got benefited. Creighton didn't shoot the ball very well at all. And then they got killed on the glass again.
They and we got to get to a break here, but there were a couple calls at Yukon they were committing fouls and they weren't getting it called on them a couple of times. And I'm like, this is the art. This is the beauty. This is what he does. Like, he works the referees to the point where they're going to get away with some things because they don't want to deal with his fury and his ferocity. And like, that's the strategy. And they did it and he won. And that's why they're 2-time national champions, guys.
All right, more on last night's game and a great night in college basketball. The slate was fantastic. It delivered. Not only in Omaha, but in East Lansing. Bobby Knight.
What?
Bobby Knight willed Indiana to a victory. I wonder if he gets credit for that last night. As Indiana upset Michigan State, are the Spartans in trouble?
Does Woodson keep his job?
We got more of Gary and Matt with Jimmy on this snowy Wednesday morning in the Big O on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome to Remote Day for all of you. Remote Day on the show. Gary and Matt with Jimmy. Hour number 2. I am in the home studio. Matt and Jimmy are in the studio.
I forget you can't hear the music, right?
No, so I look at you bobbing your head.
Yeah.
And
can you guess?
I can't.
Well, he just gave it away.
Did we do a little Neil Young there?
Searching for
He did.
life, no
I'm playing
sugar
Buffett.
song.
Welcome back in. How did
Some people claim that there's a one new name, and I know
I don't know if that car
it's
that just slid
nobody.
off of Dodge is slid off because it's slick out or they're listening to you sing.
I'm sorry, I had to. So I love it
When did the zone go to
I-
music?
I love it when I half know a song and I just start mumbling the words or just humming them. Sorry, this was good. This is bad radio. Go ahead, Care.
Jimmy and I are just watching. We're just like, this is interesting. When you were a youngin', which was like
Hold out,
a couple of years ago, how did you find out that you did not have school? Did you go to WGN and they were doing the school closings and they went alphabetically? And if you happened to be like Urbandale, you were way at the end and you had to wait. And if you missed it, and when you tuned in, they were back onto the B's, you were like, God.
So how it worked was it was ABC 7 and there was a ticker. And it didn't go by city and it didn't go by school. It went by district. Okay. But the thing is that I had no clue what district we were and what I was looking for. And so now it was a little bit different. Like I wasn't in the Chicago public school area. So
Yeah.
Chicago public schools, they just make a mass phone call to every person related to Chicago public schools. You pick up the phone. It's an automated message. Hey, this is blah, 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 the leader of the Chicago Public School Union.
This is Mike Ditka.
Yeah, tomorrow's classes are going to be canceled. But everybody else who wasn't in CPS, you would have to watch ABC 7. And so we would just be waiting by the screen as the districts flashed and we're waiting. And then they'd cut to Skilling or whoever. And they would be like, well, the snow's moving in this way. And it would be like, it would wrench your heart.
You're holding
when,
hands.
When the weather person would be like, well, there's going to be a lot of snow here, but not a lot of snow here. And so actually, you might not cancel school in these districts, but these districts, they're going to get canceled. And you're like, oh my God, you're a kid and you don't know the map. So you're like, what area are we in?
Where's Racine?
Dad's got to point out on the map where you are. And you're like, dang it, we're not in the danger area. And you're like, then there's that panic where you start doing your homework because like we may actually have to go to school. And then it's like, they blanket cover, everyone's getting canceled. That's how it was. There's the breakdown for you.
When I was a kid, the radio would be the first, but it would usually be like 5 a.m. when they would decide if school was off. Like yesterday, they didn't wait. Like it was a domino effect of school districts are like, we're out, remote learning, whatever. That kind of, the kids won't understand how exciting that was, that you'd be sleeping and you might wake up at your normal time and your parents are ready to deliver the news if you have to go to school or if it's been closed. Now you find out 12 hours beforehand, and parents who are like, oh damn, now I got to find some daycare today. And they're upset. And then we got introduced to remote learning. See, that's what I would like if I was a kid and they said, you still have to get online. I'd be like, screw that. I have bad internet today.
Yep. No, we remote learning is the biggest joke of all time.
Thanks, COVID.
Now, unfortunately though, because Nebraska's so soft when it comes to canceling school in the snow, you're soft. Because what I was going to say is go out there and build a snow fort or go out there and go sledding or go out there and have a great time. There's not enough snow on the ground.
Right.
You can't build a fort in this stuff.
You couldn't even build a snow midget.
I don't even think you can make snowballs with the snow that's currently on the ground.
It looks nice and fluffy from the home studio.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like it's a type of snowball making snow. So it's like, I don't even know what these kids are going to do other than like get cold if they go outside. So
Price is Right's at 10.
Just, play some Fortnite or NCAA, Madden, or, I think the new 2K PGA game comes out pretty soon. Just these kids are just going to play video games all day.
I think we should have a community snowball fight in Memorial Park. I won't be there, but go get it.
Yeah, you said this last year.
Yeah.
I like this.
I mean, it's like in the old war movies, in the Civil War, where you're racing after each other, running right into each other. That's how we should have a snowball fight in Memorial Park.
One guy turns into Buddy the Elf, just
your favorite duo, otherwise known as Dylan and Emmett. They announced that Scott was not having school today.
Oh,
That was
Dylan.
the announcement, not from the principal, the super, not from father. It was from Dylan and Emmett, our
like
two favorite socialites that play football at Nebraska.
Your move, Rule.
Oh, Dylan and Emmett. I'm like, who the? I thought you were talking about the Saucy Nugs guys. You know?
Yes, Dylan Dreyer and Emmett Smith.
Dylan Raiola and Emmett Johnson, who are a just a budding buddy cop film all over Nebraska, announced that Scott wasn't having school today.
I thought you were talking about the guys that go up to city council, like looking like dude and dude Fesser from like California, like we'd like to propose. I thought you were talking about those guys. No, you were talking about the starting quarterback and starting running back of Nebraska football. Why did they announce that Scott wasn't having school?
Because they were at the Scott Norris game last night.
Gee, of course.
I mean, if they're there,
yeah. Why wouldn't they be?
There's no football going on, so why not?
Why not? World tour.
They couldn't get into the chai.
This is you know what this is. This is setting up for an interesting conversation in the fall.
I just got a question. Are the Ohio State Buckeyes touring Columbus and surrounding areas as much as Nebraska, Dylan and Emmett are, as much as Nebraska football? I mean, you'd think they won a national championship with how much they're going around. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just a lot. It's a lot of driving.
Dylan has built some relationships, so he likes to watch his fellas hoop it up.
Why not?
It'll be an interesting fall.
I hope it's not a conversation in the fall. Do you know why?
I hope it will be a conversation, but it could be a good conversation or a bad conversation. There's no in between.
No, I don't. I disagree. I think it's just no convo. Because if they just win and they are just playing good football and they're performing at a high level, who cares what they're doing during the weekdays?
That's the good part. That's the good part.
Exactly.
The bad part is bad football.
Yeah, and then we'll start talking about maybe you should have been throwing and working on your footballs instead of going around, driving around, watching all these basketball games.
These are the receipts that are in the good or bad file, and hopefully you don't even have to talk about them. But he has. Dylan has built up some relationships with high school kids, and so he does go and support them. That's quite the flex. I don't think any other college football program has their starting quarterback announcing that school has been canceled today because of snow. So good on Scott.
Good on Scott.
Hey, as a tribute to Barrett Liebentritt, we were at Scott and announced that Scott's not in school today.
Hey, raise him up high.
All right, coming up in the next hour, 45 minutes of uninterrupted Red Zone baseball. Ed Service, Rob Childress, Evan Porter will join us on a snowy day. We had planned this beforehand. It just happened that we're getting pounded with the first batch of snow in the winter here. So that's coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. And then John Walker will join us from the World Herald, talk about last night, Creighton and Yukon. And then Brandon Vogel will stop by as well. So last night, the slate in college basketball was great, and it delivered.
Yeah.
You and I talk about it all the time. Don't understand why people wait until March to watch college basketball. College basketball is delivering in a really good way. So last night, Michigan State got beat. Dusty May got Michigan into first place. They won against Purdue.
What a turnaround, man.
Yeah. UCLA lost at Illinois. But the best team in the Big Ten is who?
Ooh.
The best team in the Big Ten is who?
It's Purdue. It's Purdue. And I'm about to. Sorry, I was about to sneeze for a second.
Get it sponsored.
I'll say it's Purdue because first off, it wasn't as if Purdue went on the road against Michigan and got absolutely pounded. It was a super competitive game, and it took every single inch of what Michigan had in order to win. Now, I want to say this, and I want to mention this, and this isn't necessarily like I'm not acting as if I watched all 40 minutes and I was saying there was bad refereeing. Michigan took 26 free throws. Purdue took 8, So there's a bit of the home court advantage there for Michigan, being at home, getting some of that home cooking, getting some of those calls, getting the free throw line. Kudos to them, though. 18 of 26, they converted from the line. I'll still go with Purdue. They still got a really good team. They still have who I think is the best coach in the Big Ten, and Matt Painter. It's a tough place to play. Ann Arbor was rocking. Roddy Gale Jr., Danny Wolf, and Vlad Golden, all played really, really good games yesterday. So I still think it's Purdue, but it's a hell of a win from Dusty May's side.
Hey, Michigan was terrible last year. They were the worst team in the Big Ten. Juwan Howard was at the end. It was bad. They didn't have a very good roster. And Dusty May's got him in first, which has got to sting Indiana fans because he's a Bob Knight disciple. And you're stuck with Mike Woodson, and he likes being at Michigan. I can't quit, though, the Fighting Illini.
I knew you were going to say that.
Steve, I think when they're healthy, they've got the most upside in this league. I mean, KJ last night was like fantasy basketball, and they rebounded. I mean, UCLA's playing pretty well. They don't play very well in the Central or Eastern time zone. I can't quit them. For some reason, I can't quit the Fighting Illini.
I understand the upside point with Ivicic and Yakachonis. I get it. But there are times where I watch Illinois, and there's no other way to describe them but just discombobulated, where they just look lost on the offensive end, and there are times where they just look disengaged on the defensive end, and they're a very hot and cold team in terms of when they're firing, they are firing, and they are into it, and they're playing with 100% balls to the wall. But there are other times where it's just when it's not going well, it's a snowball, and they got their hands or their faces are in their laps or whatnot. I don't know. I think they're really, really dependent on Boswell, which he's been inconsistent as of late, which is why they've been inconsistent as of late as a team. And when you're that codependent on you're not best player, you're not best prospect, that always worries me a bit. But you can't deny the fact that, top to bottom, the talent is absolutely ridiculous in Illinois. But they're just, I can't I don't know. Are we talking within in terms of the Big Ten or in terms of the NCAA tournament?
Well,
because
I think probably a little bit is me when they get to the NCAA tournament.
I don't think they're going to the second weekend of the NCAA tournament. I just don't think they're consistent enough, and I don't think they play good enough defense for 40 minutes night in and night out to advance in the dance. I just it's so hot or cold. Now, they could get into a great stretch where, Yakachonis catches fire and Ben Humerichus absolutely catches fire and, they start playing well and whatnot. But I've just seen the ugly of Illinois too much.
I know. I'm with you. I don't know why I can't quit them. I mean, there's something about at full throttle what they could be. Now, I think currently, I like Michigan. Purdue because of Smith. We're in agreement that I think they're the best team in the Big Ten. But there's that team in Champaign, man.
Let me tell you something right now. You are clouded by that win in Oregon. You watched that win at Oregon when Oregon was a ranked team, and you saw them kick their ass, and you can't get it out of your head. And I don't blame you. But as time has gone on, we've come to learn that ass kicking in Oregon against the Ducks really wasn't as a novelty thing as what it was, if you know what I'm saying. There have been teams who have been able to, Nebraska being one of them, go there and win that game.
Hey, do not discount Oregon beating Northwestern last night, my friend.
Northwestern should have won that game. You watch that game, probably from tip to buzzer, and you're like, holy crap, this is incredible. These guys are insane. And I get it. They looked awesome that game. But then you also see them play Nebraska, and you're like, wow, this team can really have some problems.
Oh, I know.
Granted,
Ivicic. And they could have hit a shot at the end to win.
Another thing, too. Ivicic,
I'm confused.
He's back and he's playing basketball, but you just don't get over mono. He still has he's still not fully 100% either. So we'll see.
Are you saying that his spleen is still expanded?
Probably, and he's probably a little groggy and drinking a lot of water on the bench. I'm being serious. Mono, you can be physically okay to do mono, to walk around and function with mono for a little bit, but that just doesn't. It's not it doesn't get whisked away in the wind. He's probably still feeling the effects of it.
You talk like somebody that's had mono before.
I never had mono. My two roommates had mono, and I somehow didn't get it. And so, not that I was kissing them or anything like that, but I didn't get mono, and
Okay,
I just saw them.
It's like an interesting turn.
Well, that's how you get mono. It's
How
the
about
kissing.
that snow? No,
Hey,
I
cold
know
today,
that's part of it. That has been debunked, right? That you can get mono in other ways.
Yeah, well, like sharing silverware or sharing drinks, or
bong.
like, yeah.
What? I'm not lying.
Brian writes into the Equitable Bank inbox.
I know I'm not the only one.
Matt McMaster kissed his roommates.
I'm not judging.
I didn't.
Hey.
Hey, if the Blackhawks won the cup, I wouldn't judge you.
Do you before you do yourself.
Yeah.
The motto of life. It's gotten you this
On my
far.
wall.
You're doing well.
It's on my wall.
Brian writes in to the Crick. He wants to know poll question. Did Matt McMaster kiss his roommates?
I won't do that to you.
Thank you.
Question here in the Equitable Bank inbox. This is from Brian. He goes, I was at the game last night. He goes, diehard Creighton fan, tough loss. He goes, they need to get healthy. Sunday in New York City will be very interesting. Let's hope that Villanova wins tonight against St. John's so that Creighton is still in the hunt for the Big East. But my seats are near the visiting bench. So I have watched the display from Fred Hoiberg to Shaka Smart to Danny Hurley this year. Watching the whole Yukon bench, not just the head coach, is quite the experience. His assistants trying to control him are worthy of having a second screen. But my question is, for you guys, who is more annoying, his brother or Dan? Danny Hurley or Bobby Hurley?
Bobby
More
takes
annoying Hurley brother.
Bobby's by far. Do you know why Bobby's more annoying? Because Bobby hasn't won 2 national championships. Because Bobby Hurley is the Hurley that people think they're hating on when they're hating on Dan Hurley. But Dan Hurley gets to say, I have 2 national championships. Bobby hasn't won anything of that nature yet.
As a coach.
So, yeah. Bobby.
Bobby Hurley, will he keep his job?
At ASU?
Is Arizona? There was a good debate yesterday on college basketball Twitter about the best jobs. Like Mark Pope, I guess, said yesterday, and by the way, Kentucky,
hell of a win,
but 2 wins this year over Tennessee, and I think they're 5-1 against top 10 teams this year. Great year for Mark Pope,
and they beat Tennessee on the road without 2 of their starters too.
Mm-hmm. It's about the Indiana job with Mike Woodson. So Indiana wins last night. I think Bobby Knight came back from the grave and helped Indiana win that game, because anytime an Indiana game gets down to the last couple of minutes, I cringe if I was an IU fan, because Mike Woodson is in charge. That's scary. But they found a way to win last night, and that was a huge win in the Breslin Center against Michigan State, who is sliding right now. But on college basketball Twitter, it was a good conversation, and it's Indiana basketball and Nebraska football share some similar things. And so I think it might have been Rothstein brought up, is the Indiana job a good job, or did Bob Knight make it a great job? Kind of like, is the Nebraska job, football, a great job, or did Tom Osborne make it a great job? But there's the part of like Arizona State basketball where they play in an older arena. There have been, there've been a lot of discussion about building a new arena or revamping that arena. You're in Tempe. Now they're in the Big 12. You're like, shouldn't ASU basketball be better? You remember when James Harden played there? Eddie House played there? It's an interesting question with Arizona State, because if that job comes open, I think you will see some interesting interest of names. But the Indiana job, which is open, and again, Dusty May has Michigan atop the Big Ten, and he would be ideal for IU, but, good gig in Ann Arbor. I think it's a great question. Did the coach make the job better than it is, or is the job just a great job and they've made bad hires, i.e. Indiana basketball, Nebraska football, where they haven't found the guy that can energize the fan base? Nebraska might have found that guy, but found that guy that energizes the fan base that they're all back in.
I think the question really just boils down to whether or not something is a great job or not is, how much are you paying me and how much do I have to give to my roster? If you're paying me a lot and I have a lot of money to give to my roster, then yeah, it's a pretty damn good job. And if you want to sit up here and say, well, the Indiana job isn't a good job because there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of expectations, you have fans breathing down your neck, you have to, this is a type of job that as soon as you get it, people are looking to see like what the success is, and you could be on the hot seat 2 seasons later. That's what you get paid to do. Okay. Like, you get paid that money to deal with that pressure, to deal with that expectations, to deal with fans breathing down your neck. Okay. And if you are getting paid all this money and you're given the resources to go out and get a good roster and you can't deal with it, then maybe you're not built for it. So that's what it is. If Indiana is paying coaches a lot of money and they've given $5.5 million this year for Mike Woodson to build his roster, which has underperformed this season, if they're consistently giving coaches a lot of money to do it and build the roster, then yeah, it's a good job. And if you have a problem with the pressure that comes with it, maybe you're not meant to be a coach of a high-level basketball program.
So if you just spend money, you call it a good job? Like, I think Kansas State and Indiana spent the most money. Now, Kansas State all of a sudden has turned their season around. They've won 6 in a row, with 3 straight top 15 wins. Kind of odd to see on the ticker last night, Kansas State and Arizona are playing in a conference game, but I mean, good on.
It's like, how'd they get Arizona to Manhattan?
I mean, that's kind of the unique thing about the Big 12 is you get, Arizona, K-State playing. I don't think K-State's a great job. Just because they have money and they spent money on their roster this year.
In this era, I think that's I think that's kind of what it boils down to, if I'm being honest with you. Because in the past, before NIL and before you could legally pay players, yes, fan interest and attention and marketing and people showing up to the building and people being interested in your program and the product you're putting on the floor definitely was a factor. Okay. And it still is a factor. I'm not denying that it's not a factor and that it is good to coach at a program that gets a lot of eyes on it and people are there. But in this day and age, you need money in order to be competitive. All right. And if you're going to go to a job and great, all these people are showing up and the cameras are on you and the lights are on you and people are showing up to your games, but you're not being given the proper resources to go out and build a roster in this day and age, then I don't think that's a good job. I think money is more of a factor now in this era of college basketball than actual attention. And we know, and we've seen it across the country, not only just in basketball, just sports. If you make a winner, if you produce a really good team, people are going to show up and you are going to get attention. Look at what's happening at St. John's right now, right? This is a team that over the last decade had not a lot of success and people had forgotten about in the Big East. They make a great hire in Rick Pitino. He goes out, he builds a roster.
Felipe Lopez on the cover of SI, please. Thank you.
My apologies. But still, people are talking about the Johnnies. People are going to Madison Square Garden. Those crowds get rowdy, right? If you build it, they will come. And that's just sports in general. So maybe in the past, yeah, oh my God, people liking, your team and the cameras being on you and people showing up to your arenas had a lot to do with whether or not a job is good. Nowadays, I just think it just comes down to how much are you willing to give me in order to build the best roster I can.
So Adam brings up a good point, and I agree with him. So what Dusty May is doing at Michigan is pretty damn impressive. He got FAU to the Final Four. He's a Big Ten guy. Again, Indiana had a chance to hire him. They stuck with Woodson. Michigan made a really, really good hire. And look, everybody says you're one hire away from getting back. That's what they say at Indiana. That's what they say at Nebraska. Michigan's a good basketball school that had hit the bottom with Juwan Howard. They had an AD that went up, that made a move. He made a smart hire. Adam brings up a very good point about Michigan and maybe as a blueprint in college basketball. Maybe not so much in football, but in college basketball. He said, it's the standard of hiring a basketball coach in today's NIL era. Dusty May asked for less salary than market in return for Michigan upping their NIL support. Michigan agreed to it, and you can see the results. I also think that a good job is built by, if that guy's a good coach, you can make it a good job.
Yeah.
And Dusty May has that resource, but he also, I think, is a really good basketball coach that is proving that it doesn't matter if you're in Boca Raton or Ann Arbor. If you can coach ball, you can coach ball. Look at Nate Oates. Was Nate Oates an okay coach at Buffalo? And then all of a sudden he showed up in Tuscaloosa and all of a sudden he's this greatest coach. There's just some guys, it doesn't matter where they're at, they can coach ball. They happen to have more resources. But the Michigan model is kind of interesting, like for young coaches that instead of chasing that first big paycheck at a big Power 5 job, they say, hey, let's have a big paycheck so I can go out and build my roster. And then on the back end, you take care of me.
Well, another thing too is that So he had those like he takes that pay cut, and then what does he do? He gets Vlad Golden to come with him from FAU to Michigan. He gets Danny Wolf to transfer from Yale to Michigan. Right? He's those are two of their top players who are helping them have this much success. They came through the portal, right? And so it really does come down to, in this day and age, like, can you evaluate talent, and then can you develop that talent? Let's look at Yukon. Great example. They go out, they get Aiden Mahaney from St. Mary's, right? They evaluated Aiden Mahaney as a guy, hey, we can go out and we can get him, and this guy can come and contribute for us. And he hasn't really hit the mark for
their return on investment is poor. Creighton got a break not winning that battle.
Exactly. And then you look at Michigan, and Yukon isn't having the greatest season, and now they're even more trouble because Diarra is really hobbled. I mean, he did not look good yesterday playing for them. I mean, he looked really held back, and now they have to play a guy they went out and they got in the portal who hasn't been playing at the level that they thought they were. Look at Michigan. They go out and they get those two guys. Those guys are playing at an incredibly high level. They beat Purdue, and you could argue right now that they may be the best team in the Big Ten. Now they've had some tough losses, like they lost to Minnesota. That was a really bad loss. But like, I don't know. Back to the Indiana discussion. I'm just sick and tired of the idea that jobs aren't great because there's a lot of pressure that comes with them. Because like, I get it. Like, pressure's tough, and there's a lot of expectations when you get hired to a job like that. And yes, it may be easier to do a job in a place that doesn't have higher expectations, like a place like Indiana, okay? But at the same time, that's what you get paid for. You get paid more than other places with lower expectations because you have to deal with that pressure. And if you can't deal with that pressure, then it was a bad hire, and you weren't made to do the job. That's how I look at it.
All right, we'll take a quick break, come back. Coming up next hour, we'll talk to Ed Service, who begins his final year as the Creighton bench boss, Rob Childress, the strike thumper, and Evan Porter, who begins his 9th year as the head coach of Omaha. They're all going to warmer locales to play baseball this weekend. College baseball is here. We'll do it all coming up in the 8 o'clock hour with Gary, Matt, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. Hey, AEF Academy is one of the fastest growing youth basketball programs in the Omaha area. You're looking around with your son or daughter and you're thinking, okay, where do I want to go to get the best experience on and off the floor? AEF Academy is the place for you. Attitude, effort, focus. They've got their 3 core values that they instill in every athlete to become impact players, both on the court and in their communities. Now they've got competitive teams, camps, and valuable instruction opportunities for players at all levels. Their teams, and don't forget, their spring and summer team tryouts are coming up soon. 2nd grade through 17 under boys and girls teams. They're in the recruit look circuit, so that's a big bonus for their 17U teams. That's a thing about AEF. They develop great athletes and even better humans with their paid, trained, and dedicated coaches that are shaping the complete athlete on and off the floor. They've got a fabulous new facility. It's located at 99th and Portal Road in Papillion. So if you are with someone and you're thinking, you know what, time to transfer, ironically, you would go to a place on Portal Road in Papillion. They got 3 hardwood courts. For more information, go to their website, aefacademy.com, to find out more about the fastest growing youth basketball program in the Omaha area. And also, coming up on Monday, make sure you sign up. Stephen Ashworth back at AEF. He's putting on a camp. That's coming up on Monday. You don't want to miss it. For more information, go to the website, aefacademy.com.
Roofing, siding, and gutters. Make the right call with the rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com.
Hey, shout out to when people that are affiliated with the show do big things, we like to give them some love. Ben Audie got a head coaching job.
Yes.
The BA Coaches Show, our regular guest in the fall on Mondays. He's been a great addition to 1620 The Zone. He got a head coaching job at Uniontown High School, which is in Kansas. He is the youngest head coach in the state of Kansas at the age of 25.
That's awesome.
So congratulations to Ben.
Better choice than the Dallas Cowboys. Way to go, Uniontown.
Whoa, Jimmy, just
I got a new high school to root for.
Stop. All right, let's talk to Doug on the morning after the theater of Yukon Creighton last night. Good morning, Doug.
Doug, you there?
Doug.
I
Doug
believe
called
Doug
back.
had to go.
Yeah, we Doug was on hold for just a little bit, so Doug call back. Hey, you brought up when we were talking about at the opening segment a lot about last night. Something that popped in my head at the end of the game, where if Creighton finds a way to win that game, they hit a couple of free throws, they hit a big shot, the Ashworth 3 goes down instead of spinning out, they win that game, and Yukon is like, that's what this year is. And Creighton survives and they win 10 in a row going to New York City. There was a when you know, and Creighton doesn't foul. So all of a sudden they had to scramble to stop the clock and get, you know, Yukon to the free throw line. Were you surprised? There was a play in the corner where ball got trapped. There's about 20 seconds to go. It's 67-65. And the anticipation of the official calls a foul when I don't think there was a foul there yet, and bailed Yukon out because he was in trouble. They bailed ball out with the foul call because they trapped him perfectly, and I think he was ready to throw the ball away. And that was about 20 seconds to go with 67-65 in the corner down where, you know, the good seats are.
It was away from the opposite side of the bench, right?
It was straight across from the Creighton bench.
Okay. So why wasn't Ashworth trapping there? Or was that a different one? Or were we talking about
This is a different one.
This is a different one?
It was 67-65, 20 seconds ago, they inbound, and they trapped ball in the corner, and it was pretty clear that they were not going to foul immediately.
Yes.
They were going to they had him pinned, and
I was thinking of it.
There was a foul call without a contact.
Are you asking, like, is it just like, was that just it was probably an anticipation call? I mean, that's just like,
but they didn't on the previous possession. Like, okay, I know you're going to foul. We're going to help you. We're going to stop the clock. And so they immediately called that one. I thought they could have let go maybe another 2 seconds or so, because Yukon was destined to throw that ball away.
I just think, I mean, that's just kind of the game, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where it's just inconsistencies in refereeing. And we're getting to the point where, as you watch more and more college basketball, there definitely are conferences that have more refereeing problems than others. Okay. There's no doubt about it. But still, just in general, there definitely is a little bit of a refereeing problem in college basketball. Another thing, too, is like, the reviewing. I'm sick and tired of this reviewing, man, at the end of the games. I mean, it just seems like every single out of bounds call that looks to be somewhat close, we have to walk over to the monitor. We have to watch it. We have to review it. We have to see whether or not we got the call right. I'm sorry. The one where it was right on the sideline, it was a diving play, and it ended up being out on Creighton, and they went to go and review it.
On Fedor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The referee was right there.
I know. So we're in lockstep here, because the ball that goes off of Johnson, that Jason Green and Johnson were together. So the initial TV review, you could see it. Why did it take that long when they went to the monitor?
And like with the one that went off the door, you're paid to watch the game. You're paid to make the calls. It's right in front of you. Do you not trust your eyes that you saw that the ball clearly went off the door? Like, I get it. If the play happens here and the referee is all the way across the floor, maybe it's a spot that they aren't fully covering. And so no one gets a look at it. Hey, we got to go to the monitor. But nothing pisses me off more than when a referee's standing right there. You are right there in front of the play. You should clearly see who the ball went off of or who the foul was on or whatever, and you have to walk all the way to the monitor and review it. I don't get it. I don't get that. Never understood that. And that's not just a basketball problem. That's just a refereeing issue across all sports. If you're standing right in front of the play, we shouldn't have to go to the monitor.
Doug, who is had to go because he has to shovel snow.
What do you mean you have to shovel snow, Doug? It's 2 inches. It should take you 5 minutes. You should scrape
it's barely
snow.
an inch, at least where I live.
Scrape snow. That's shoveling
I think
snow.
we got a little bit more here in the village, but that's what they say about people that live in the village. It's accumulating.
It's not a lot here.
Yeah, tell me, Chicago. How does it look? It's okay.
On Dodge, this is nothing. This is not shoveling. You are scraping snow.
You can still throw
honestly,
the ball today.
I don't even think there's enough snow for a snowblower to be used. That's how little snow
Today's
there
not
is.
cold.
There will be disappointed people if they're not able to use their snow blower for the first time this winter because they've gassed it up, they've cleaned it, they've prepared, they've had the discussion with the snow blower on how this is going to work. They can't wait to get out there. They might even got it for Christmas and they haven't been able to use it. There'll be a lot of disappointment.
This is a classic. Let me walk out the door. Let's see if there's any ice on. Listen.
I think I could make some money if I was younger and was out just shoveling in the neighborhood.
If a kid came up and said, "Sir, can I shovel your sidewalk or shovel whatever?" I'd be like, "Nope, we're fine." I'm telling you right now. This is you walk out
then
the
when
door.
it gets older, there'll be eggs.
You make sure there isn't any ice on the ground or anything that's going to make you slip. You maybe clean up a little bit of the driveway. I wouldn't even do the sidewalk. You can walk on this thing. It's fine.
But Doug, be careful out there while you're shoveling.
Yeah. Yes, Doug. Be careful.
Okay. He says, I am not a front runner. Jeff in Arizona. I tried to show up this morning, but couldn't wait on hold that long. Because I have employees calling in because of the weather.
And they answer on the first wing.
Creighton missed shots they normally make, and Liam was hot. Creighton looked tired. Unfortunately, I wasn't at the game, and maybe that was good. I had to bowl or get kicked off the bowling team as I've been out of town and other Creighton games. We lost most of our points last night, so yesterday sucked. Is he talking about his bowling or the Creighton?
I did. I was going to say, I know where Doug sits now. I know where seats are. Yeah. And so I can very easily look. And Doug wasn't at the game. And I was kind of surprised.
He was bowling.
That answers the question. I was going to ask him, like, where the hell were you? He was bowling.
He doesn't let down his team.
Is bowling, you get kicked off the bowling team? We're getting kicked. They kick people off intramural bowling teams?
It's about winning.
Really?
I don't think it's considered intramural. I think it's probably a league. It's a big deal.
They take it seriously.
Are they on
Have you not seen the
FS1
Big
being announced?
Lebowski?
Are they not are they not on FS1 being announced by Bob Stone or John Fana? It's intramural, okay? like unless they're a part of the PBA, the Pro Bowling Association.
He doesn't know who Chris Schenkel is,
okay? It's intramural. It's not. I mean, maybe they're playing for cash, but they're not signed athletes to a contract. They're paying the bowling league to
just
play.
Remember, I'm Gary. I'm pro Keglers. I don't care what level. There's Matt. He doesn't like you.
1620thezone.com.
You can't say that. You cannot say that I don't like people. I'm
don't
just
like
saying
bowlers?
it's intramural. It's
Bowlers.
intramural.
No, it's not.
You get kicked off of those teams. We're kicking people off of intramural teams. Really?
Creighton's still a better team than Nebraska this year. Try to change my mind.
What a hot take from Doug. That's hot take central.
Listen, 1 and 11 weren't very good last night. One was really bad. They didn't shoot the ball very well. They got hammered on the glass for the second straight game. The physicality of Yukon took over. And, oh, by the way, Liam McNeely scored 38. Now, a couple of things about other players. So Jason Green plays his role really well. Ty Davis gave him great minutes last night. Yeah. You can see what a year of experience will do for Jackson McAndrew. Mm-hmm. Fedora's got to work on his defense, but he on the offensive end, you see what's coming. Okay, so if he can become a all-around player, their ceiling goes up a little bit, but I like what I see, what he does on offense. Here's the one that they really have to figure out. They got some empty calories out of Mason Miller. I don't know what he is. The open shots he's not hitting. Last night he looked lost. I think it's an empty calorie when he's on the floor.
There was that 3 in the corner that if he hit it, that would have been massive. I mean, that would have swung the game. They probably win the game if he hits that 3 toward the end. And he missed it. And Gary, that's why you're on the court. Like you are put on the court in those late game situations to be open and to hit those shots and to help win those games. And he did it.
Doug Doug adds one more. Oh no, this is about. So he wonders where Andrew is this morning.
Well, we still got time.
Do you think that with Mason Miller, like we're getting to the point where what he lacks on offense is starting to not equate to what he gives on defense? Because I think like the argument for him was that, okay, yeah, he's not hitting shots and he's a 3-point shooter and he'll eventually turn it on. But man, like he's giving good minutes on the defensive end. He's long, he's tall, he's improved. I mean, he played great. And so I think it was against Yukon. Funny enough, against Yukon at Yukon, he played incredible defense that helped them win that game, right? But like with what he's lacking on offense and what he's not producing, we are getting to the point where it's like, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the defense just doesn't equate to what he's not giving on offense anymore.
He looked lost last night.
He didn't look good.
No.
And you are getting contributions enough to shorten up the bench from other players.
Quick break. We'll come back again coming up in the next hour as snow is falling. People are telling me snow is falling like at 2 inches per an hour.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's
a lot.
Traffic's moving nicely on Dodge, though.
That's a lot.
I just saw a plow. That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Ed Service, Rob Childress, Evan Porter coming up in the next hour. Gary and Matt in 1620 The Zone.
This basketball season, when your favorite stars score buckets, we are alley-ooping you an opportunity to win money from watching sports with Underdog. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? You can with Underdog. To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower with one of their stats like points, assists, rebounds, and more. They do all of them. In fact, I need to check and see if I won last night. I think I did. You can play with as little as $1, and if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn $1 into $1,000 just with your hoops knowledge. This week on Underdog, I'm diving in at the NBA. And tonight, Wemby against Boston, me against Joey. And it's at 6 o'clock, so I'm not complaining. I'll be watching that game, and I hope to make some money off it, and you can too. Download the Underdog app. Sign up now using the promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on the fun when you sign up with promo code ZONE. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncpgambling.org.
Now live on Twitch, YouTube, and 1620thezone.com.
Hey, it's Karen with Shamrock Roofing and Construction. Ready to replace that roof? We have flexible financing options, 12 months same as cash, and don't make a payment for 90 days. And that's just one of many options we offer. Get on the schedule now with our in-house Consumer Credit Center. One call does it all for flexible payment options, affordability, and peace of mind. Visit shamrockroofer.com. That's shamrockroofer.com or call 1-866-932-3545 today.
If you're 55 and up, T-Mobile has plans built just for you. 2 lines of unlimited for just $30 a line. That's a 45% savings compared to Verizon and AT&T. But don't just take our word for it.
It's not just the savings that are great with our T-Mobile plan. There's all this value from all these other things that T-Mobile offers.
T-Mobile has been such a savings for us.
We love it.
Switch today and get 2 free 5G phones like the Motorola Edge with Turbo Power charging that gives you power for the day in just 15 minutes. And customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for only $30 a line. Go to T-Mobile.com/choice55 to learn more. With AutoPay plus taxes and fees, plus $5 per line without AutoPay. Debit or bank account required. 45% off 2 lines versus AT&T Starter and Verizon Welcome. Plan benefits vary. Motorola Edge on us with 24 monthly bill credits and new line for well-qualified customers, plus tax and $35 per line connection charge. See details at T-Mobile.com. Motorola Edge requires 68-watt charger. Charger sold separately. Actual performance will vary based on usage and configuration.
Out here, in the middle of all these acres, it can feel like you're the only person on Earth. And sometimes, that's how it feels when you're going through tough times. Stress builds up, you have trouble sleeping, maybe your mind is racing and you just don't feel like yourself. So what do? We get help. Lots of people are struggling with their mental health. It's more common than you think. The good news is, there are people in our community who are here for us when times are tough. Sometimes, just talking to someone can make all the difference in the world, so we don't feel so alone. One thing you can do is visit loveyourmindtoday.org for simple steps you can take to find the right solution for you. Whether it's hearing stories about what other people are going through or finding the resources we need to navigate the stresses in our lives. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Morning, Paula.
Morning, Ron.
Another day in Adminville, am I right?
What are you working on? Oh!
You okay?
Your tabs. You have so many open.
Yeah, gotta order lunch for the big client meeting. With great responsibility comes tabs.
I can help. Close all those tabs and open just one, easycater.com. Online ordering from local restaurants, plus tools to save time, stay on budget, track expenses.
One tab to rule them all.
EasyCater, the smarter way to order food for work. Order now at easycater.com.
When you're in the mood for a little change of pace, tune into Omaha's home for hits that rock. 101.9 The Keg. With rock hits from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Plus, we're your home for all Creighton men's basketball games. 101.9 The Keg. Hits that rock.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. Now back to Gary, Matt, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
I'm not even going to guess what the song is. For a little inside baseball here, when we're remote, I can't hear the music, so I have no idea what the song is. I may be talking over the song, but all I do is I look at Matt, and Matt's driving a motorcycle right now. So,
yeah, he's listening to George Thorogood. That's not what I'm playing. You would approve, though. You would like this one.
No,
Still
there's
Dre.
no
It's still
chance. No
Does
chance
not
you
name
would
that
get
tune.
that. No chance.
Still Dre.
Freebird?
I am free as a bird.
Can we discuss something that I think flew under the radar yesterday in college football?
Oh, give it to me.
What was Matt Patricia doing in Columbus interviewing for the Ohio State defensive coordinator job?
He doesn't dye his beard.
They have to get that position right. And Matt Patricia in Columbus?
They have to make a 30 for 30 on
his career?
No. The New England Dynasty assistant coaches, because it really is so interesting that Brian Flores, Matt Patricia, Josh McDaniels,
Don't get front butt.
Like these guys have gone out and man, they were good coordinators, good assistant coaches of dynasties,
Romeo.
right? Like they were a catalyst of winning for of this long period of winning, and they've all just failed miserably, like as trying to be coaches. And like after that era was done, like they just have disappeared, and then they bounce around, but they always somehow end up with a job or end up back in New England. Like no matter what, they always can go back to Foxborough. It's absolutely incredible.
Matt Patricia, Ohio State. No.
That was good. We were in sync there. Absolutely not. No. Even Bill O'Brien, too, like this guy who always can go back to Foxborough.
All right, coming up in the next hour, Ed Service, Rob Childress, Evan Porter. We'll talk some baseball. College baseball opens up on Friday. They're supposed to have a big press conference today downtown to announce how they're going to celebrate the 75th anniversary of the College World Series. I think
Oh.
Not sure if that's still scheduled this morning, but
It's
they're
getting bad. It's getting bad out here. Dodge is looking worse and worse.
This looks like Foxborough against the Raiders.
It's getting rough.
But we'll talk some college baseball coming up in the next hour. Gary and Matt in 1620 The Zone.
Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Plumright Time-Saving Traffic Center. Reports of a crash Highway 370 near 114th Street and an earlier wreck JFK southbound at F Street off to the right shoulder, still causing delays back to I-80 eastbound. And if you are traveling North Freeway, delays both north and southbound directions between Ames Avenue and Ellison. The plows have been out working on the roads, but it is slick from the snow. Please be safe and give yourself ample time to travel. And as always, wear that seatbelt. I'm Peter Krenzer. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by 50 Shades of Green Dispensary.
There's a new alternative to adult beverages. 50 Shades of Green Dispensary introduces THC and CBD drinks and lemonades and seltzers. With real fruit juice and no artificial flavors, you gotta stop by one of their 14 hydration locations to get all 5 palate pleasers today.
Velocity Clinical Research in Omaha conducts clinical trials for investigational treatments and research. Typical studies involve medications for high cholesterol, diabetes, and adult obesity. Some current studies include RSV and bird flu prevention. Studies are medically supervised and do not require insurance. Velocity recognizes your time is valuable, so they offer compensation for study-related time and travel. Participating in a clinical trial leads to discovery of new meds that lead to better health for everyone. Find out more at velocityclinicaltrials.com.
OSI Oakland is hiring maintenance mechanics for 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. These are 12-hour shifts, 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 3 off. And every other weekend is a potential of 3 days off. Pay starts at $25 per hour, up to $42 per hour, based on skills and experience. OSI offers great benefits, 401k, and a retention bonus for new hires. Apply now at osigroup.com/careers. OSI is an EEO employer. Bonuses subject to eligibility and program requirements.
This is a sale so big that Standard Heating and Air can only do it once a year. Right now, and for a very limited time, buy a Carrier air conditioner from Standard Heating and Air and get a free furnace. Carrier, turn to the experts. On qualifying equipment, for details, call or click.
I'm a pretty great multitasker. I can wash dishes and do laundry. I can roller skate while walking my dog. I can even order lunch while doing my homework. But I can't use my phone while driving. A distracted driver is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. So when it comes to driving, please, don't be a multitasker.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Tell us how you feel on the JTech Construction and Solar Zone Twitter feed. Reach Gary, Matt, Connor, Josh, and John anytime on JTech Construction and Solar Zone Twitter feed. Contact the official exterior and solar experts of the Huskers. JTech Construction, your exteriorexperts.com.
With UBT, you've got total control over your money. Like Doug, who runs his game day tailgate like a well-oiled machine.
I got burgers, brats, chicken, dogs, plus all the fixins'. And with the UBT Go app, I can track my food spending from anywhere.
Pro move.
They don't call me Grill Sergeant for nothing.
No matter your goals, UBT helps you feel good about reaching them. Union Bank and Trust. Member FDIC.
KOZ and Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. This is Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone.
All right, happy snow day, everybody. Welcome back, Gary and Matt. Oh, don't.
I'm not going to sing this
genre.
What would you say, Jimmy? You would know better.
This would be more closer to yacht rock.
Yeah.
On a warm day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Summer breeze makes me feel fine.
I think you just gave it away.
Flowing in the shadow.
It's Love Shack.
Oh, I would love Shack. Makes me feel. This is a classic. Out on the boat, Brainerd, Minnesota, Gull Lake, 1 p.m., Miller Lite cracked open, salami sandwich number 2 in left hand, rod in the right hand, just a little jig fishing.
Or after the keg runs out at the moon tower and you're hanging out with a girl.
Looking for some big pike. That's what that is. Just
you don't catch walleye out of that lake?
Oh my God.
Did you say pike or pipe?
Pike. I don't look, I think I'm a very good fisherman. Okay. I love fishing. I don't think I've caught a walleye in 2 years. Everybody else on the boat is catching. It's so hard. It's such a finicky bite. And like, I'm really good at the reaction.
If you're jig fishing, yes.
It's tough. And like they're tugging, like they don't bite, they don't bite the head. They kind of work up the skirt of the minnow. And it's like, I've just been pulling too early on them because when the pike hits, right? And like, so when you catch 8 pike in a row, you're used to feeling that
subtle flex.
Yeah. And you feel the head and you set that hook. And it's like, I got the yips right now with the walleye. I've just been pulling the skirt too early on the jig. And it's just, it's been a while. It's been like 2 years since I've caught a walleye.
So the takeaway here is kids don't do the same mistake.
No, hey kids out there, let the walleye swallow the minnow. Really let them take the minnow.
That's not a metaphor.
Before you set the hook, let the walleye take the minnow. Put that on your wall.
Looked at an updated bracket here. So a lot of the bracketologists don't get up this early in the morning, and some don't update them every single day, except for Shelby Mast, who does the brackets for USA Today.
Yeah, you love Shelby.
Yeah, we used to have him on all the time, and then
Really?
we shifted to Tim Kruger. We'll have Shelby back on. He's from Dallas, got a deep Texas accent, but he's been doing the brackets for USA Today for a long time. So after last night, where you get Kentucky prove they could win, they beat Tennessee, Auburn and Alabama. They go into the Big Tilt this weekend. They both rolled. Texas basketball, by the way. Ooh, man, we have to. Texas isn't very good. We might have to have a discussion about Texas basketball with Rodney Terry. But he updated his bracket. He dropped Creighton last night, so he's got Creighton back to an 8.
Really?
He's got Nebraska still as a 10. I'm surprised he dropped Creighton to an 8. He's got Yukon as a 6. Now, Shelby's, I mean, he's one of the better bracketologists in terms of his bracket.
I don't know if
I don't know. I wouldn't.
I don't like that.
He had Creighton as a 7 yesterday. He dropped them all the
To
way
an 8?
behind Gonzaga as the number 2 8 seed. That's a surprise.
After a 4-point loss at home to another tournament team?
It's a quad 1. So they weren't ranked. It's not a bad loss. Not enough that I would move you a line.
No. A whole, like, I understand if you were to go from top 7 seed to you're the 3rd 7 seed, like if you're moving within the intra seeds, right? But like to move from a 7 to 8 off that loss, I don't get that. Who are his 1 seeds? Is it
Duke,
Auburn,
Alabama,
Tennessee?
Auburn, Florida?
Yeah, it's probably going to be. If I had to put money right now, probably going to be the
And then
1, 2, 3.
Tennessee, Houston, Iowa State, Purdue are his 2s. KU, which wants to kill their student newspaper, but they beat Colorado last night.
Hey, don't kill us. I'm an alum of that. Be nice to them.
No, the Kansas is trying to kill the student newspaper.
Larry Brown tried to kill student radio once upon a time. That's a fact.
I don't know. KU's trying to shut down the student newspaper there, the Daily Kansan.
Damn. A lot of us alums there out there.
Bracket matrix right now not updated after yesterday's games, so might be changing, but has Tennessee as a 1 and Florida as a 2. I think those two are going to flip-flop probably. Yeah. Florida's playing great basketball right now. I mean, they looked good yesterday against Mississippi State.
People are talking about the days of Billy Donovan. People forget that Billy Donovan coached at Florida, and Florida basketball actually meant something.
Yeah, I'm sick and tired of Billy Donovan.
Well, that's your NBA team. I mean, hey, Detroit's a good team. I mean, you just don't think you're going to walk into the UC and beat Detroit. You also probably don't think Detroit's going to come in there and beat you by 40. But, it happens. It's basketball.
The bad boys couldn't do that.
If the Bulls were to run the table and win the NBA championship, I would not claim it. I would not at all.
Why?
I just because Because I haven't been watching, I haven't been following, and I couldn't care less. I would not claim it.
But
I
by
would not,
May, you'd be there.
No, I would. I'd be pissed if they went on a run because it would validate what Jerry Reinsdorf is doing. I just want all of Jerry Reinsdorf. I root for all Chicago teams other than the ones that Jerry Reinsdorf owns, and that will not change until he sells.
Hey, I almost sent you a picture. You know, of the ticker at the Chai. That was like, I don't know, 4.5 to go in the third quarter, and it was 87-40.
I'm just
still plenty of time.
You don't mess with Rasheed Wallace, dude.
I'll just tell you,
Prince,
I'll tell you something.
Phillips.
Horn, Zeke.
No,
I just can't. Is it bad that I want all the owners of my teams to sell my teams?
We'll discuss later.
Yeah, probably.
I understand.
We'll take a quick break. We got Ed Service, Rob Childress, Evan Porter coming up in this hour to talk college baseball, which begins. The road to Omaha begins on Friday. As we look outside, slick streets, whiteness, winter has arrived. Took until mid-February. We will talk baseball. And we'll also hit refresh to see if Alex Bregman has picked the Cubs yet over the Red Sox and the Tigers.
Come on.
Ed Service is going to join us here in a little bit. About to enter his last year as the head coach of Creighton. That's coming up in a busy 8 o'clock hour right here on Gary and Matt, 1620 The Zone.
$16.20 The Zone wants you to get your shit together.
You can do it!
It's a new year, which means it's time to finally get started on those things you put off last year. You could win $5,000 to help you get rid of some of that old junk you have laying around. Get some paint for that wall. Get that gym membership. Whatever you need to do to get your shit together, you can enter to win $5,000 online at 1620thezone.com. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7.
Winter storm warning remains in effect throughout the day Wednesday with travel impacts both the morning and evening drives. Plan on light to moderate snow throughout the morning, then light snow in the afternoon, tapering off from west to east. Expect 3 to 5 inches of accumulation around the metro. Plenty cold as well, with wind chill values remaining at or below zero throughout the day. I'm meteorologist Sean Everson from KETV News Watch 7.
It's a celebration of love with 50% off jewelry at Saul's.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Plumright Time-Saving Traffic Center. Reports of a crash Highway 370 near 114th Street and an earlier wreck JFK southbound at F Street off to the right shoulder, still causing delays back to I-80 eastbound. And if you are traveling North Freeway, delays both north and southbound directions between Ames Avenue and Ellison. The plows have been out working on the roads, but it is slick from the snow. Please be safe and give yourself ample time to travel. And as always, wear that seatbelt. I'm Peter Krenzer. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Fulling Warehouse.
Nothing to do in Omaha? Not anymore. Introducing you to the Fulling Warehouse, where football meets bowling. 2 blocks north of 90th and 4th. 30 Fulling lanes, 2 full bars, perfect for any occasion. Bowling with a football. Check them out, fullingomaha.com.
Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill is your home for the big game. We're in the middle of the best time of the year of basketball season, with meaningful games every night, with 40 TVs and massive dual projectors. The games have never looked better. Pair that with their award-winning char-buffed wings and $7.99 Monday through Friday lunch specials. Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill has everything you need. 173rd and West Center Road, and for takeout, 162nd and Maple.
When I hear the heat has arrived, I advise my crew to lay low. But now that word heat has a whole different meaning. For a limited time, get my new Mike's Hot Honey Pepperoni Cheese Sticks. My abundantly topped cheese sticks covered in mozzarella and crispy cup pepperoni, finished with a drizzle of Mike's Extra Hot Honey. This combo of sweet and spicy is just the heat you're looking for. Add them to one of my deals. Order today. Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
Woodhouse Nissan is your next destination when looking for a vehicle. Browse our full lineup of SUVs like the adventure-ready Nissan Rogue, packed with features you actually want. Serving our metro for over 20 years. This is Woodhouse Nissan.
When you're hiring,
Have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Progressive presents Employee of the Month. Small Business Edition. Today's recipient from Lucky Larry's Landscaping, Larry! Larry saved his business money with a quick commercial auto quote from Progressive. Does it help he's his own marketing manager, accountant, executive assistant, and never been late? Technically, yes, but saving really put him over the edge. So, Larry, give Larry a round of applause. Be your own Larry. See if you could save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
The Omaha men's basketball team continues their quest to win a regular season title in the Summit League. The first-place Mavs travel to Brookings, South Dakota to take on the perennial favorites, the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Sharp. Join me on Thursday night at 6:30 with a pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off on 1180 for Omaha and South Dakota State.
Bankers Trust is now open in Omaha, privately owned and community-focused. We can help you reach your financial goals with our full suite of banking, lending, and wealth management services. Visit us at 192nd and Dodge or online at bankerstrust.com.
This is Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and Zone TV.
All right, coming up here in a little bit, we'll be joined by Ed Service, head baseball coach at Creighton, entering his last year as the head J. Pitching coach Rob Childress from Nebraska. They announced their starting 4 for their weekend and all of the excitement around Nebraska baseball. And then Evan Porter entering his 9th year as the head coach of Omaha. They'll all join us here coming up in just a little bit. 24/7, because it's that time of the year, has projected the 2025 schedule for teams from the Big Ten. Would you like to take a gander at what they think Nebraska's record will be as they predicted it on the 11th of February?
Love this game.
8-4.
Okay. Jimmy?
8-4. That sounds about right.
A little bit of a surprise. 7-5. 4-5 in the Big Ten, with the potential to win 6 to 9, depending on some road swing games, according to 24/7.
Sounds like snow.
Get real uncomfortable here in Lincoln if that were to happen.
7-5 in year 3.
Yeah.
Yes. And a below 500 record in the conference. Yes.
Yeah. No Gouda.
But they couched it by giving themselves a buffer from 6 wins to potentially 9. 6 would be startling.
That's pathetic.
That's what we do in February.
That's ridiculous. Yeah. You cannot. The difference between 6 wins and 9 wins is like the difference of Matt Rule keeping his job and Matt Rule losing his job. Yeah, so we're going to buffer in between that. That's crazy.
That got a click. Thank you very much. Quick break. We'll come back. Head coach of Creighton baseball, Ed Service, about to enter his final year. The Jays open up at UNC Greensboro on Friday. He'll join us coming up next on 1620 The Zone.
Omaha's most listened to all sports radio station. Again and again and again. 1620 The Zone.
Velocity Clinical Research in Omaha conducts clinical trials for investigational treatments and research. Typical studies involve medications for high cholesterol, diabetes, and adult obesity. Some current studies include RSV and bird flu prevention. Studies are medically supervised and do not require insurance. Velocity recognizes your time is valuable, so they offer compensation for study-related time and travel. Participating in a clinical trial leads to discovery of new meds that lead to better health for everyone. Find out more at velocityclinicaltrials.com.
Creighton Sports Update. Creighton women's basketball returns to DJ Sokol Arena this Saturday afternoon. It's senior day, and they're calling for a whiteout as they take on the Georgetown Hoyas at 3 o'clock. Don't miss any of the action with only 3 home games left on the schedule. Visit GoCreighton.com to get your tickets or for more information. And that's your Creighton Sports Update.
1620 The Zone proudly supports Creighton Athletics.
Email unsportsmanlike conduct on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox with whatever is on your mind, from your hot takes to what you think is one. The Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox.
I'm Emmett Smith. Opioid poisonings cause the most accidental deaths in the U.S., and I've lost loved ones. But now I'm prepared to save a life. Just remember, lay, spray, stay. Lay the person on their back, use Narcan nasal spray, dial 911, and stay with the person until help arrives. Continue to administer additional doses as needed. An opioid poisoning can happen to anyone, anywhere, anytime. Always be ready to rescue. Learn more at readytorescue.com.
Lanahaw Nurseries has been your dependable full-service source for locally grown trees, plants, and landscape materials. Rooted in tradition, our products and services are consistently ranked best of Omaha in quality and value. From design to install, our experts are here to help bring your landscape vision to life. Start your next project this weekend. Visit us at 192nd and Center, Lanahaw Nurseries, your homegrown headquarters since 1974.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/radio, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
If you're considering a career in broadcasting, 1620 The Zone and the Nebraska Broadcasters Association Foundation can help you become part of this exciting field. 3 $2,000 scholarships are available to 4-year college and university students who will have completed 30 credits as of May 31st, 2025. Let us help you reach your career goals. For more information, contact 1620 The Zone or click ne-ba.org. Application deadline is March 1st, 2025.
How's it going? Greg Wagner joining you from the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Time now for another Nebraska Outdoor Update. Question, do you enjoy spending time outdoors at a favorite activity? Aha, I knew that. Then I have a challenge for you this year. Why not share what you know outdoors with somebody in your family or friend group? There's somebody in your network anxious to get outdoors and learn the lifestyle. They just need you. Share what you know. Attention park goers, have a friendly reminder that the Nebraska State Park System is open for you. Whether it's wildlife watching or hiking or maybe sightseeing or even winter camping, the majority of our Nebraska State Park areas are available to you. Just need your state park permit and money for those camping fees. By the way, you can get more information about the 76 area Nebraska State Park System online through the Game and Parks website at outdoornebraska.gov. I'm Greg Wagner, Nebraska Game and Parks.
1620 The Zone at 1620thezone.com. Gary and Matt are back on 1620 The Zone.
In the famous words of Bruce Buffer, it's time. 45 minutes of uninterrupted baseball talk here on 1620 The Zone. Gary and Matt, and we begin with the legendary head coach of the Creighton Blue Jays, Mr. Ed Service. Coach Service, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Of course. Hey, so, Coach, I have to, I'll bury the lead here, and I'll let you know that I'm actually very good friends, very, very good friends with one of your former players, Paul Bergstrom.
Oh, great.
And I texted Paul yesterday, and I said, Paul, I'm having your coach on the show, and I need some tidbits. I need some questions. What should I talk to Coach Service about? So he sent me this very long text message, and I want to read it to you, and I want to ask you the question that Paul wants me to ask you. So he says, say this. Thanks for your time today, Coach. Last question comes from Paul Bergstrom and Andrew Meggs. They are wondering, how important will it be to control the free bases on defense and make hitters earn it, given the low percentage of offenses that can generate 3 hits in an inning? And on the other side of it, how important is it to make sure your offense controls the strike zone and push the ball down, especially early in the season? So how about that, Coach?
That sounds like a pitcher talking. And obviously, Paul was a good pitcher for us for 4 years.
Yeah.
But you can text him back and say yes to both of those. We are very concerned about the free bases and controlling the zone when we're at plate. So you should add on to that. We're also concerned about the leadoff batter. I'm surprised Paul didn't mention the fact that we want to control the leadoff batter when we're pitching and on defense. So otherwise, his question was spot on.
So actually, talking to Paul, I do want to ask you this question. With you and evaluating talent and bringing guys to the program, obviously, talent's important, and having guys who can, you need guys who can play baseball. But for you, when you're bringing guys in to be a Creighton Blue Jay, how important is it to get a fierce competitor on your roster and to fill your roster with just fierce competitors?
Well, that's huge. And high character guys is always been important to us as well. And, we're very fond of dual sport athletes coming out of high school for that reason, because usually your dual sport athletes are very, very competitive. And we've had a lot of luck getting guys that played multiple sports in high school. So your ability to compete along with your talent, along with your character, are things that we look for when trying to put our rosters together, year by year.
When the baseball dinner at Casio's a couple of weeks ago, I think everybody was there. They feel your optimism for this season, and knock on wood, you got to stay healthy, because if you're healthy, it's a really good roster. But before you get to opening day on Friday at UNC Greensboro, I know you're not the sentimental guy. You don't want a goodbye tour around all of college baseball, but walk us through the emotions of this. This is the last opening day for you, putting on a uniform that is so special to you, and then bringing Mark Kingston and some new guys on the staff into the program. What are some of the emotions that you're going through as you get ready to start your last season?
Well, thankfully we're so busy that we don't have a lot of time to think about that, but you do have a moment, especially when I'm driving home after practice. I live about 25 minutes from Creighton rather. And so it gives me a little bit of time to put things in perspective. But at this time of year, you're so concerned and so consumed with, do you have your team ready? Is there anything situational wise that we may see that first weekend that we haven't discussed, that we haven't worked through? There'll be a time for that. But, I've always prided ourselves in our program being about our players. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, concerned, and I want it to be about our players this year. We have a great group of guys. We return a bunch of guys. They're fun to work with. They're easy to work with. They understand the system that we have in place. So it's been good. But I want it to be about these players. And so I'm going to deflect any of that kind of stuff and put it back on the players. These guys deserve the situation that we're about to get into on Friday.
Coach, a pillar of your program has been defense. As long as you've been there, you guys have always been toward the top of the country in just defensive statistics, keeping the ball in front of you, making the easy outs. What do you think are the keys to consistently being at the top of the country in those defensive statistics? And maybe what are you talking about to your team, or what is your team working on that maybe other teams aren't, that is making you such a good defensive team year in and year out?
Well, we put a heavy emphasis on throwing the baseball, and we throw a ton of it in practice. Mm-hmm. And I know sometimes, I have to constantly ask our players how they're feeling, because, if it was up to me, we would throw a ton every day. But I think we throw a little bit more than a lot of programs. because most of your errors are committed by throwing, not fielding.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the throwing error is strictly on the player. You know, it has nothing to do with the bounce of the ball or whatever. Once that player secures the ball, he's in full control. So we spend a ton of time on throwing. We have a throwing program that we've used for the last, 30 plus years that helps these guys work on their accuracy and their quickness. And then we try to keep everything simple.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have 6 different bunt plays. We don't have, 6 different pickoff plays at second base. We keep it really simple so that the execution is high.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we think we got to outsmart the opponent. I'm not interested in outsmarting anybody, but I am interested in out executing you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in.
For people that have been around your program in the lead up to heading to Greensboro this weekend, very, very confident. I know you're confident. You've got a deep team. You got a veteran team. You got to stay healthy. We're great in the non-con. We're great in the midweek. Had some rough Big East weekends. But I think one of the things that changed, and we talked about this when we had you on during the season, is Dominic Cancelleri was dealing. I mean, he was turning into one of the best pitchers in the Big East and got sidelined. How close is he to being able to be back and to pitch at that level that he was at last year, Ed?
Very close. He will not play this weekend, and we're going to be super cautious with Dom because we need him. We need him that second half of the season to be healthy. But I give Dom a ton of credit. He's had some injury issues throughout his entire, playing career, and he's working as hard as I've ever seen him since he's been on campus. This is his 4th year he's been with us. He's doing everything he can to try to get back as quickly as possible because he knows he wants to help the team. But we're being really cautious with him, and we're being really smart with him. So I think he's a week or two away from getting out on the mound, but he's been throwing bullpens. He feels good. He hasn't felt this good in a long time. So I think if we can get him to that point where we build him up properly and have him feel good, I think he's even better than what we've seen so far. Because he's always had a little bit of soreness and so on. I think there's another little step in there for Dom. We just got to be smart. I know he wants to pitch this weekend, and he's not quite ready. And I'd like him to pitch too, but we've all got to be patient with this process because we need him the second half of the season.
Coach, you first 11 games on the road, obviously not uncommon. I don't think anybody's anticipating playing baseball currently, with the weather we have outside. But outside of going 11-0, what do you want to accomplish in this first stretch of the season?
Well, I want to develop our bullpen. Our bullpen's been a big part of our program here over the years, and we have a lot of guys we like. We're just not sure what their roles are going to be yet. I mean, who can get that 27th out? Who's better righty against righty? Who's better? Who can get the best left-hand hitter the other team has out? And we have to get those answered here, hopefully in the first couple weekends. So I'm hoping that we can sort out that bullpen. Players do much better when they have a defined role, and we don't really have that yet in the back end. We have some guys we really like, some guys that have done it. They just haven't done it here.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be a little different here. And we're not accustomed to losing games late. We've lost 15 games in 21 years with a lead in the 9th inning. So we've been able to finish games and close games. And that's a really, really big part of this. So my big thing, I think we know our offensive lineup for the most part. We may have to shuffle a little bit with our starting rotation, but the big question mark is that bullpen, and we're going to find out a lot this weekend.
Some more arms. How do you get Ed Nissen and Went to take that next year jump where we saw bits and pieces of it last year when they were on the bump?
Well, they have. They both looked really good this fall. Eli's in better shape. Nissen's in better shape. He was good last year for 2 or 3 innings. We need more out of him this year. He knows that. We need 4 to 5, maybe 6 innings out of him as a starter. And Shea's just got really good stuff. He's just more comfortable now. Like a freshman, you just don't know what you're going to get sometimes. I mean, he showed some brilliance last year when he was on the mound, and he showed some times when he couldn't throw a strike. So his mound presence. I always look at the mound presence of a pitcher more than his stuff. Because I think if his mound presence is there, you got a chance. Not everybody's going to throw 95 miles an hour, and you don't have to get a college hitter out. but I think you got to believe in yourself. And these guys aren't good actors. They can't fool you. When they stand on the mound, they believe they can get that guy out. They present that. So Shea is really improved in that area. I think he's set up for a big, big year this spring. We're counting on him.
Coach, you got to, looking at your roster, definitely an older roster, a lot of seniors, a lot of graduate students. Just from like a just macro baseball question, I guess, because how big of an advantage is it for you as a coach knowing that you have guys in your locker room that have been there, done that, done there before, played a lot of baseball? And does that give you more confidence heading into this season, knowing that when the going gets tough, you have a lot of guys who've fought their way out of those situations before?
I think that's exactly right. The big key with experience, and that's what these guys have, is when we hit a rough patch, and it's going to happen. You play 50-some games in a short period of time, you're going to hit a rough patch. You count on those older players to work through it, so it doesn't last for a week or 10 days, that you can get through it quicker because these guys have had experience with that. And that's what I'm really, banking on with some of these guys. Yeah. And the other thing is, they can almost predict what we're going to do. Like a hitter comes up to the plate, and he knows me so well that he can almost predict and think along with me. And then that helps their execution a lot better. When we've had our really good teams here, the guys could predict 90% of what we were going to do in a game. And that's because they've been around me a lot. And most of these guys have been here. A lot of these guys have been here 4 years. And so that brings a lot of excitement to me, knowing that they're going to take some ownership in this deal, and they're going to rely on their experience. And I just can't emphasize enough how experience is so important at the college level.
Well, let's and we'll get you out of here on this. Ed Service, head baseball coach at Creighton, joining us. Creighton opens up at UNC Greensboro this weekend. This is going to be one of your best outfields in a long time. Nolan Sailors came back. He had a great year last year. What's the next step in his evolvement of an outfielder, but also at the plate where he was so good? I guess also on the bases, as he was so good for you last year.
You're right, Gary. This outfield is really good. It's really good. They're athletic. All three of those guys can play center field. They throw well, and they're very, very good offensive players. As far as Nolan goes, I think Nolan, if we could just use his speed a little bit more, he's so athletic, but he has a little power, and I'd like to see Nolan maybe cut his strikeouts down a little bit and force the defense to make a play and use his speed a little bit more. What we'd like to do with Nolan a little bit is have him bunt a little bit more, because I think it's really hard to defend a bunt against him. And then, develop a little bit more of an idea what he wants to do with two strikes, because if he can do those two things, and he hit 350 plus last year, I can't even guess what he would hit this year if he can just work on those two things. But he generated more power last year, and that was good to see. And we are so fortunate to have Nolan back. He's not only a heck of a player, he's even a better person. So I'm just excited about guys like being around Nolan. And, the one player that we don't talk about in the outfield much is Tate Gillen. Tate missed a lot of the second half of the season last year. Keep your eyes on Tate Gillen. He's a really good player.
Hey, fantastic. Ed, we appreciate your time as always. Enjoy opening day, and good luck this season, and stay healthy.
We will. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
That's Ed Service entering his last year as the head baseball coach at Creighton, and they open up at UNC Greensboro this weekend.
And we'll go from Creighton to Lincoln, or Omaha to Lincoln, as we welcome in the pitching coach for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, Mr. Rob Childress. Coach Childress, how you doing, my man?
Doing great.
Doing great. Great to hear from you. Hey, big season coming up for you guys. A ton of expectations, and exactly where you want to be heading into the year. Starting off ranked number 24 in the country. Big weekend coming up with a lot of great non-con competition. General question, just how's the locker room? How are you feeling about the team? What's the vibe, heading into Arizona?
Well, it's great. I mean, we're healthy as we can be going into the season, getting on the plane tomorrow. And, certainly our expectations are higher than anyone else's for our team. And we look forward to the next 3 weeks in terms of the challenge of going on the road and playing some great teams.
Hey, you've been around really good teams in your entire career. And this is a veteran team that tasted success last year. And I think since you guys started fall ball to the winter on the chicken and rubber pea circuit to the lead up of practice coming into this weekend, everybody's been focused. They know what's in front of them. They don't flinch. You've been confident. Will's been confident. How much of an advantage is it to taste it last year, but not get over the top and have a majority of that roster coming back either on the bump or at the plate?
Well, you better be old in this game right now. And, for me, a college lineup should equate to 25 years of service if you're going to have a fighting chance. And what I mean by that is leadoff hitter's a senior, that's 4. 2-0 hitters a junior, that's 7. You better add up to 25 years of service to have a fighting chance with just the way the game's gone now with the transfer portal. And it just is different than it's ever been in terms of that experience piece. And when you look around our starting lineup, we're going to have upperclassmen at every position, and same thing on the mound. We're going to have a lot of experience back. And, that gives us a lot of confidence. I felt like last year, first weekend, we kind of went down to Arlington and dipped our toe in and wanted to see if we belonged. That this team needs to be ready to go throw some haymakers this weekend and know that they belong. And, every road game for us, especially this time of the year, the first 3 weeks, is a chance to, garner RPI points and have a chance to host. Our ultimate goal is not to go on a road in a regional and finish in third place. And our goal is to host. I mean, that's how you get to Omaha.
Coach, ton of experience on this roster, ton of previous production coming back. But, the kind of the main guy that everybody's talking about right now is a guy that you work with a lot, Mason McConaughey. How have you seen Mason grow from just a pitcher coming from Cloud County Community College to now being a preseason All-American?
Well, it's a great story. And, everybody has a different clock in terms of their development. And for Mason, he wasn't even really sure he was going to play college baseball, and was a late walk-on offer after his senior year to go to Cloud, and did a great job working with Coach Gilliland, and, continued to develop once we got his blessing to bring him in here after his freshman year. And Mason's a leader in every respect. He leads from the front with his work ethic and how he treats people and how he goes about his business. And he's got great aptitude. Any minor changes that we've asked of him, he's been able to make those with his delivery, and then hold on to them. And he just continues to evolve and grow. And, he's had a great preseason for us and is healthy. And, certainly if you poll the entire coaching staff and locker room, he would be the guy that we want leading us from the front this weekend.
You get him on Friday, and as we're talking to the strike pumper, Rob Childress, pitching coach for Nebraska, Ty Horn, there's a lot to like about him. When you're sitting there and his fastball is popping mid-90s, sometimes it'll get up to 97. He got introduced to college baseball this year, a little bit more mature. What do you expect out of what could be your consistent number 2 starter?
Well, just for him to go pitch, and he did that all fall and all preseason, and he'll go against Vanderbilt in game 2. And I told him, I go, if you try to get into a velocity match with these guys, you're gonna get your brains beat in. You better go pitch. And I mean, they see what you bring to the mound every day in their scrimmages, and if you're going to go try to bully them with your fastball, you're going to get beat up. You better go pitch and be able to pitch backwards, and that's your gift. I mean, being able to throw a 1-0 breaking ball or 2-1 changeup to slow them down, and then have a mid-90s fastball, that's pitching, right? And if Heiner can go out there and control the game, he's going to have a great outing in game 2 for us.
So, Coach, when you returned to Lincoln a couple of years ago, I was in the Lincoln media. I was there, boots on the ground, and when you came in, everyone was talking about how important your addition to the staff was because of your ability to build depth within a bullpen, within pitching. What are the keys, and what goes into building depth within a rotation for you as a coach?
Well, I think when you start putting pitching staff together, you better build it from the back to the front. And if you can't do that, you're not going to be very good. And, it's about going and winning the fourth quarter, the 6th, 7th, and 8th innings on the mound. And so our strength has to be back to front. And if we feel confident there, then we've got a shot. And, last year we had a lot of competitors at the end of the game, but there was a lot of contact inducers at the end of the game. We needed the ball to be hit to our defenders. And so it was kind of a mix and match. We ended up with 20 saves as a staff, but there's a lot of different people that finish games just based on matchups. I feel like we're stronger with stuff at the end of games, and I don't hunt the strikeout, but strikeouts are nice, and it certainly helps that fielding percentage, especially at the end of the game.
You like Worthley out of the bullpen right now better than as a starter?
I do, 100%. I think Jalen, when he comes out of the bullpen, brings a certain amount of energy, and he's a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. And when the grease is hot, that's when he's at his best. I feel the same way about Drew Christo. He's pitched as good as anybody to date since we got back in early January, and would be rightfully so to come into my office and go, look, coach, I think I should be starting. I've pitched as good or better than anybody. And he has. But again, Drew, with his spikes on every day, and just the intimidation, the adrenaline piece for him, if he's got his spikes on every day and know he can go into the game, I think it makes us better and him better, rather than a 6-day preparation leading up to one time a week. And again, these two guys, you ask that question, well, you're going to use them out of the pen, Rob. Are they not that important to you? No. We're building from the back to the front. And at the end of the year, we need to make sure these two have a big enough piece of the pie. And we're talking about between 40 and 60 innings, or we've done them a disservice. And I just don't see any other way that they're not going to get that kind of workload. I mean, going twice a week and going 2 to 3 innings twice a week and shortening games for us and getting the ball to the end of the game, whether that's, Luke Broderick, who's a transfer from Iowa Western, who's got wipeout stuff and has proved to throw strikes, and it's got a lot of swing and miss in there with a mid-90s fastball and a wipeout breaker.
Your starters for San Diego State and Grand Canyon are going to be Will Walsh and Jackson Brockett. Both these guys have been in the program for a while now, and you've been able to work with them. What are, for both of them individually, what are you trying to see in terms of growth from Will and from Jackson?
Well, Will is, he's mature beyond his years. He's like, visiting with a 30-year-old grown man. And, he's a knife fighter. He's one of those guys you think you're going to get, and you keep coming back to the dugout, and all of a sudden you got blood squirting out of your jugular, and you don't know how you're not getting it. It's four pitches, anytime, any count. And, he's going to make 6 innings disappear real quick. And, Brockett continues to grow, develop, mature, has been unbelievable for us, has been 90 to 94 most outings, commanding the fastball to his glove side very, very consistently. And he's a guy that is great extension. He can pitch heavy off his fastball, and his curveball and changeup are good enough just to show him in an at-bat to get back to the fastball. But he's thrown a ton of strikes and just feels super confident with the 4 guys that are going out there. We talked about 2 other guys, but other piggyback guys that are important to us. They're Tucker Timmerman from Beatrice. It's had a great summer, great fall, great preseason. Carson Jaza, who redshirted for us last year, is a guy that just keeps getting better and better with his delivery, with his command, with his stuff. He's going to be upper 90s with 4 pitches, and is a guy that at some point I feel like is going to be a starter here. It may be maybe it's time we get to conference. Maybe it's not till next year, because the 4 guys that are pitching this weekend have something to say about it. But certainly going to be a weapon out of the bullpen. And then Grant Clevenger is a left-hander that was here last year, pitched sparingly, but is a 6'4", 230-pound monster that's just had a great fall and spring for us. That, very similar to Carson Jaws, a big, strong starter profile, but swing and miss stuff.
Nebraska pitching coach Rob Childress joining us. We chat here on this, Rob. You're in the opposing dugout, and you're putting together a scouting report against the lineup 1 through 9. Scout your own lineup. Who is the one that in the lineup 1 through 9 that would keep you up at night if you were the pitching coach of the opposing team?
It would be Dylan Carey. I mean, Dylan has just continued to advance in terms of his approach, and he's got power from foul pole to foul pole, and is going to be our guy. I mean, obviously, Gabe Swanson can change the game with one swing of the bat. He's got as many college at-bats as anybody in the country, and it's going to be hard to deal with. Hale Frost is a transfer for us that he's going to raise your blood pressure every time he steps in the box. He's got a chance to change the game with his power, and those would be the 3 guys. Case Sanderson is a hit collector that it's hard to deal with. He's a bat-to-ball skills guy. Matt Butenbach has had a great fall and spring for us, another guy that makes you throw it over the plate and he's very, very strong. So there's some weapons, there's balance, and a lot of experience in that lineup. So now we're excited. We're looking forward to playing somebody else Friday, I can tell you that.
Hey, my friend, thank you very much. Good luck this season. I know there's a lot of optimism, and rightfully so.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach Childress. So we started in Omaha. We went to Lincoln. Now we're going back to Omaha, and we'll welcome in the head coach of the Omaha Mavericks, Mr. Evan Porter. Coach Porter, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great today. Coach, so, I definitely don't need to get into it, and I probably don't even need to remind you, but last season definitely was a tough start for you guys. And you have not – you said, you know what, so what about that tough start last year? We don't care. We're going to have – we're going to schedule really competitive teams to begin this season this year for you guys. You guys are playing Tulane, LSU, Kansas. How important is for you when you're making the schedule that you get top competition to begin the year?
Well, I think the goal the first 4 weekends for us is to find out, who we are as a team and define roles for guys. So, the message has been, it's not who you play, it's how you play. Mm-hmm. And I love playing, as tough a schedule as we can, because ultimately we want to prepare ourselves for our conference season. So, you mentioned last year we didn't get off to a good start, but testament to our players. They turned it on once conference came, and they stayed consistent, and we had good leadership within our team, and it showed. They did well enough to host the Summit League tournament this season, and so. But to your question, that's what the first 4 weeks are all about. Regardless of who you're playing, you're figuring out roles for guys and how you can be playing your best baseball come March.
And part of that is playing LSU here in the opening part of the season. One thing I've enjoyed is walking by the ballpark on my walk on the trail, and I hear a lot of ping. You've been able to get outside a little bit more earlier this year than I think probably in the past, and you got the unbelievable facility that allows you to do that. But as you've gotten outside, and I'll speak for you, Evan, last year was rough with injuries because I would stop by the dugout after games, and it would be a Friday night game, and you're trying to figure out who's going to pitch on Saturday, who's going to pitch on Sunday with all the injuries. You've got some new arms on the mound. You've got options elsewhere. What did last year teach you about constructing a roster, whether it be in the really good job that you do high school recruiting in the area and the state or in the portal, so that you're not in that situation again with the injuries and you're trying to figure out late Friday night, who's going to be my guy on Saturday?
That's a great question. And I think the trend is, is on par for pitchers as far as there's more injuries now, more than ever with, a velocity jump and the pitch clock. It's kind of been a combination to create more injuries on the mound, not just with our team, but all throughout baseball. So I think to answer your question, we really focused on health. That was kind of the main theme this fall, and we have an awesome pitching coach, Michael Bradshaw, who he left the White Sox organization to join our program last year, but his title with the White Sox was rehab pitching coordinator. So his job was to get guys post-op back to full health. So he is as detail-oriented as they come, and has mapped out plans from day one of really once our season ended last year up into the fall, and then fall into winter break and into live. So I do feel like we're much more healthy this year compared to years past because of his work with our pitchers and mapping out detailed throwing programs for them.
Coach, one key bat you bring back to the lineup is Tyler Bishop, who, a real complete hitter, can do a lot power-wise, but also really good discipline and can get the bat on the ball. What is the next step for Tyler Bishop and his development as a hitter?
Yeah, I think it's not to put too much pressure on himself. Coming off a great season, that can be hard when the expectations get higher. And, he was really good for us last year. And in fact, 1 week, I think he was the national player of the week.
Yep.
Hit for a cycle. He was just a sophomore, and I think my entire sophomore season he had more hits in that 1 week than I did that whole year. But he's, we're going to move him to the outfield this year. He's playing third base last year, so hopefully that relieves a little bit of, pressure going from infield to outfield. He doesn't have to be, as close to the baseball on defense, which will alleviate some pressure for him offensively.
You brought up Michael Bradshaw, coming from the White Sox, now in his second year. This is your 9th year as the head coach, which seems like it's flying by. You got Coach Manganero is on the staff, but you also in the offseason added Darren Ruff, who everybody in the area knows. How much of a benefit to you and your team has it been having two guys that are recently just in pro ball? Michael Bradshaw with the White Sox a couple of years ago. Darren just retired from baseball. What's that been like to have them in the program getting ready for the start of the 25 season?
It's been amazing. And I've been fortunate enough to know Darren for the past 20 years. You know, we were roommates in college and then we were roommates in pro ball with the Phillies together. And, you know, Darren's track record speaks for itself, and he's been to the top of the mountain baseball wise, and nine years in the big leagues, 3 in South Korea. But I think what I've always admired about Darren is that he's a major league person, you know, and the way that he just goes about his business and treats the players. I think he was destined to be a coach after his playing career was done. And we just were fortunate enough to be able to add him to our staff. And it's been awesome. You know, he's just an unbelievable resource for our players. And also a grade A human being. So I feel pretty lucky to be around him and the other guys on our staff every day.
Omaha head baseball coach Evan Porter here joining us here on Gary and Matt. Coach Porter, you know, not only have you been the head coach for Omaha for 9 seasons, but you also were a player, a very, very decorated player for the Mavericks in your time. What advantages do you think it brings to you as a coach, the fact that you have been exactly where your players are right now?
Well, I didn't play at as high a level as they are. We were Division II at the time, but I just had the greatest coaching staff you could imagine with Coach Bob Harold, Coach Chris Gadsden, and Coach Dan McGinn, who are legends in the Omaha area, you know. And so I was fortunate enough to not only play for them, but I got to coach as an assistant with them for 4 years before I became head coach. And, you know, the older I get, the more I realize how valuable that time was being around them. And then as far as your question, you know, being a player here at UNO and seeing, you know, the university transform into the major metropolitan university that it is today with world-class facilities and world-class professors, all these things have happened in a relatively short period of time. You know, we went Division I in 2012, and, you know, since then, pretty much every building has either been built or repurposed on campus, and that includes Baxter Arena, Caniglia Field, and then, of course, our beautiful ballpark. So it's important to remember where you came from, right? And I think having that experience as a student athlete here, assistant coach, and now head coach, I feel really fortunate to be at UNO. And it's hard to believe, like Gary said, this is my season as head coach. And, you know, 20 years ago, I was just about to start my freshman year here when we were playing at Boys Town. So time flies.
Yeah.
And Omaha opens up against Tulane. You talked about offense, and you're going to have 6 of your 8 returners drove in 20 or more. So you have options there. On the mound, as we were speaking about being healthy, and people will recognize the name Ben Weber and CJ Hood if they followed high school baseball. They also will know the name, and I can't wait to watch him pitch. And I know he's only a freshman, but this was a huge recruiting pickup for you. And one of the reasons that Maddox Meyer from Malcolm chose UNO was because of the relationship that you built up with him. People that saw him pitch in the state championship and ironically at Tal Anderson Field, they know what he can do. I don't want to go overboard here. You know that I like him. We were texting back and forth last year during the high school season. How good can Maddox Meyer be on the mound for you as a freshman?
He could be really good. And the two guys that were on the show before me, Coach Childress and Coach Service, those are just amazing people and baseball minds. I think they both hit on how freshmen, you know, they can always go through those bumps, and that's normal. And I think what separates Maddox and really, you know, good to great players is how quickly you can mature out of that, you know, mindset when you are going through a hard time to get out of it and be okay with it and move on. And so Maddox has shown that maturity since day one. And, he's, like you said, he just had a unbelievable high school career. And he, I think his fall outings were really good. And he just transitioned into college baseball at the Division I level as smooth as anyone I've seen. So, he's going to be a big part of our pitching staff, and we're excited for him.
Coach, you talk about 9 seasons. You can't believe it's been that long since he took over at the helm as the skipper of the Omaha Mavericks. What do you think is the quality most as a coach that you've grown in?
Well, I think consistency is so important in leadership, and we've had good times and bad times, and if you can just remain positive, take it day by day. That's something I learned. My first year in 2017 as head coach, we had a really rough season, and I remember Coach Harold, reaching out and saying, "Hey, these are character testing times," and they can be, especially as I didn't really realize that as an assistant coach, but I think we've got amazing leadership at UNO with our Chancellor Lee, and the relationship that Adrian Dowell's created and cultivated and maintained with her has been awesome, because if you're on social media, you'll see how supportive she is of our sports program. So,
yes.
And everything starts with leadership. So, being more consistent was something that I learned going from assistant to head coach, and the importance of that. And I think, it's, those hard times, as cliche as it sounds, they prepare you for future hard times, which are going to come, right? There's going to be some rough stretches, and then, how we act and operate as a coaching staff during those times is really going to determine how quickly we get out of those tough times. So, there's, it's, like I said, I feel very fortunate to still be in baseball and at UNO and now the head coach of the team that I played for. So, I take a lot of pride in that. And I love this university and community, and I want to see it do as well as it can.
Hey, safe travels to Louisiana. Good luck this season. It's a great to end the year with the Summer League tournament. Hosting at Tal Anderson is fantastic.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day and stay safe out there.
Thank you, Coach Porter. Appreciate it. And that is a wrap.
45 minutes of uninterrupted college baseball talk.
Hey, good job, partner. That was good, man. That was good stuff. That was learned a lot about all 3 teams and all 3 coaches, and it's going to be a good spring/summer here in Nebraska for college baseball.
Yes, it will. All right, I have to go hop on a bus to go to South Dakota.
Hey, good luck.
They brought their weather here.
Go Mavs.
We'll talk tomorrow morning.
We'll talk tomorrow morning. I will see you then, boss.
Thank you.
All righty, Jimmy. It's time everybody's been waiting for. You and me. Next hour, we got Mr. John Walker, and then Brandon Vogel will end it out for us.
Hi.
About to have a lot of fun here in the last hour here on Gary and Matt. You're listening on 1620 The Zone. You know that music. If you're a listener of the show, you know what that means. That means our law and order, our lawyer, our investigator on the case, Mr. John Walker, joins the show here on Gary and Matt.
I thought we were just talking about our favorite NBC 90s shows.
Johnny, how are you?
Man, I'm good. It was a fun night, a long night.
A long night.
It sure was. But I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm tired too. I assume that you got out of the parking lot pretty quickly yesterday, considering the fact you probably left very, very late. But I don't know if you heard about my escapade, and I was stuck in that parking lot for quite a while. So
you went straight to work from the parking lot.
Yeah, it was rough. It was rough getting out of the chai yesterday, Mr. Walker.
Tough. Yeah, it sure was. By the time I left, there was snow on the ground. There wasn't snow on the ground when I walked in. So. Whole new world, man.
Whole new world. Yeah, Fool's Spring really hit us right in the face last week, and now we're dealing with the full force of Mother Winter. Hey, let's. You're a writer. You're a journalist. You're non-biased. You're impartial. But I want to put you in the shoes of a fan. So if you're a fan of Creighton basketball, waking up today, are you mad? Are you more mad that was a winnable game against a really good team at home and they couldn't make the big plays at the end? Or are you a little bit more optimistic considering the fact that Kalkbrenner and Ashworth did not play well and you still nearly beat the two-time defending national champions?
Yeah, I mean, they like this, it's not like Creighton was in some power strife to try and, they had to beat Yukon to make this season mean something. So no, I think you fan, player, you just kind of stomach this one and move on. Really. I mean, the thing is, you just can't let one turn into two.
Sure.
Which it very well could, Sunday at the Garden, but you just can't let one turn into two, really. So no, I'd be encouraged.
Okay.
I think after that Marquette loss on January 3rd, like Stephen went 1 of 13 from deep, and Kalk didn't. He was like 4 of 11. And Jemiah Neal at the time asked, what are the odds of that happening?
Sure.
Well, low, but not impossible, as we saw last night.
So I want to ask you about one certain player, and we've seen a lot of these non-starters and even some starters like Jason Green grow into their roles. We've seen Isaac Trout become a spark plug off the bench. We've seen Fedor Zugic kind of get comfortable in Greg McDermott's offense and understand how things flow. But Mason Miller has really been struggling on the offensive end of the ball. And I'm getting to the point of where maybe his impacts on defense just don't equate to the shortcomings he's had recently on offense. Where do you think just Mac is on in terms of Mason Miller? And are we going to see, I mean, it's not as if he's playing 30 minutes a game. I mean, he's averaging 13 to 15 minutes a game. But do you think we're going to get to the point where, we're in crunch time, we're getting close to the Big East tournament, we're getting close to the NCAA tournament, that Mac might just shorten the bench a little bit?
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked he hasn't. It makes a little bit more sense with this team because, again, Fedor got added into the mix mid-season. And they dealt with some injuries earlier in the year, and they needed to play guys to find out who was going to be in what role.
Yeah.
So I think so. Again, I'm surprised he hasn't. I think I wrote a story on that, earlier in the season, that he usually has he usually doesn't go deeper than 8 into the bench, and I think he's right at that. Maybe playing 9 this year, but. No, it's so tough because for a while, even when Mason wasn't hitting shots, he was making winning plays.
Yeah.
And it was clear to see, I think Villanova was a really good example. That's just immediately what comes to mind. He didn't play all day, checks in that final minute and scraps for an offensive rebound that he tips to Jemiah. And yeah, I mean, that was a game changer in that game.
Even against Yukon on the road, I mean, he wasn't making a massive impact offensively, but it was one of those things where it's like, man, he's playing great defense right now against Diarra, and he's transitioning well. And, it's hard to take him off the court when he's doing that. But, it's getting a tough point to balance, right? The fact that, he is a guy who for the most part, should be contributing at a higher level on the offensive end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anybody at Creighton who doesn't know that. You know what I mean? Like Mason Miller shot 45% and led from three and led the Big East in 3-point percentage a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he went 0 for 2 last night, and now he's shooting 15%. So no, I don't. I'm sure Mason knows that.
Sure.
Greg McDermott obviously knows that, and it's tough. It's tough because again, that was a guy who started, I believe, every game last year on a Sweet 16 team, and this year has just not been that player.
What did you see out of Ty Davis yesterday?
Yeah, I really like Ty Davis's minutes. Didn't get on the board, but more importantly, as we've seen for this Creighton team, didn't have any turnovers.
Yeah.
I can't remember what game it was, but Stephen Ashworth went to the bench, and then boom, here came a frenzy of turnovers, and that didn't happen last night. And in fact, the exact opposite happened. Stephen Ashworth went to the bench with 2 fouls in the second half, and Creighton went on a 14-2 run to go up 14.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, okay. Now, obviously, Stephen Ashworth was struggling and what have you, but no, it was really encouraging to see Ty Davis make the most of his 8 minutes, most of them again in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the things that you kind of come to expect of freshmen this time of year.
Sure.
It's a cliche, sure, but it's February. You're playing on a top 25 team. Like, you're not a freshman anymore. At least you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And Jackson McAndrews to that point, and I think we're slowly starting to see that Ty Davis is too.
At some point, you're no longer inexperienced, right? Like, you're no longer youth.
No.
At some point, there's that transition, and definitely a great shot on Jackson McAndrew too. That's another guy that's going through that transition. Had a pretty good game yesterday.
And if you need to see a guy who's not a freshman anymore, go look at 30. Go look at Liam McNeely.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, have you seen is that one of the better college basketball performances you've seen with your own eyes? I think it's the best I've ever seen. I saw Melo Trimble drop 30 from Maryland back in 2016. I think yesterday McNeely surpassed that performance.
So 3 come to mind.
Okay.
3 come to mind.
Give them to me.
Trevor Hudgens, if anybody knows that name, Northwest Missouri State legend. That's where Ryan Hawkins went before he came to Creighton. Trevor Hudgens, his senior year, the year that Ryan Hawkins did transfer to Creighton, he just took over games.
Yeah.
What Liam McNeely did last night, this Division II kid was doing every single night. So a couple of those come to mind. The Trey Alexander 30-piece at Madison Square Garden
That's a
last
great
year
one.
comes to mind.
Yep.
Obviously they lost, so it's not as impactful.
Sure.
And then Jermaine Couisnard and Fale Dante last year when Creighton played Oregon in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, great.
But I really don't I'll have something out on omaha.com in a little bit of what Dan Hurley and Liam McNeely had to say after the game. And that was what Dan Hurley said too, was for a freshman to come into this environment against that team, against that defense, and do what he did was really impressive. So no, man, I mean, that's gotta be, that's up there for me, for sure. I mean, 38 and 10, played 38 minutes in his second game back after being sidelined for a month with an ankle sprain. I mean, that's that's nuts.
And I kind of pointed out earlier when Gary and I were talking, I don't know if you caught it, but he had a really bad turnover in that first half. And Hurley called him over to the sideline. He runs over to the sideline, puts his hand over his mouth, says some words that probably there's a reason why his hand's over his mouth, right? And immediately the next possession, he gives him a shot at a three-pointer. And I think that is, for what we give Dan Hurley a lot of slack for his antics with the referees and yelling and screaming and getting it into the crowd, I feel like that was a great moment of him proving why he's a damn good coach.
Yeah, those are, and I think maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Sure.
But I think that's part of why Creighton fans give him so much crap is because deep down they know how good he is.
Sure.
Like there's an innate level of respect, I would say.
Yeah.
Like anybody who watched Dan Hurley's presser last night, if anybody goes back and watches it, like that is not the guy who's on the court, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Like he's just a completely different dude. Like people say, "Oh, he's a character. He's such a character." No, like that's a really good word for it because he plays the part of college basketball's biggest villain. And he's just kind of like nice as could be in the pressers.
It's a great one too.
I think that's why players like all of that to say. I think that's why players like playing for Dan Hurley because he's going to bring that out in them. And it has to be a certain type of player to be able to deal with a certain coach like that.
Yeah.
But boy, we saw last year with Cam Spencer. We've seen this year with Liam McNeely that when that marriage happens, it's fiery.
So Creighton now kind of ends a long stretch of games dating back all the way to January 25th. They played in 5 games. And Mac kind of mentioned that he thought that maybe toward the end of the game they look gassed because they've just been on this long run. They now have 4 days before they take on the St. John's Johnnies on the road. They already beat St. John's earlier in the year. How important is this kind of rest period for Creighton to get their legs back and play what will be the biggest game they've played in conference play so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. Like Greg McDermott sat down after that Marquette win, and I think the first words out of his mouth, like in his opening statement, were, we're running on empty. And Marquette's not a fun team to play when you're running on empty. And so, we kind of knew as far back as Saturday that this stretch was getting to them. And, they said that everybody in the league has to do it. So it just is what it is. But no team in the league has hung its hat on 2 players like Creighton has with Stephen Ashworth and Ryan Kalkbrenner. Then I think they said Ryan Kalkbrenner was dealing with an illness. I'm not making excuses. I'm just telling you guys what what's what.
Well, he was coughing profusely during that press conference. I mean, you could hear it. I mean, there was a mucus or raspiness in that cough. Like like I was listening to it, I was concerned a little bit. I mean, that's not a thrown out there excuse. I mean, Ryan Kalkbrenner seems like he's actually sick.
Yeah, no, he does, and so Tuesday was their 10th game in 32 days. Jeez. I pointed that out to Greg McDermott, and he said, "Well, actually, the 3 games in 6 days was even tougher."
Yeah.
Especially because last week's win at Providence, they didn't get back until 3 a.m. So that throws off your whole routine. Well, then you got to prep for Marquette, and now you have to prep for Yukon, and so they'll finally get a little bit of a breather before they go play St. John's at the Garden. But it's huge. I mean. So St. John's has a chance to kind of slam the door shut.
Yeah.
Like if St. John's wins on Sunday and goes up 3 games with 5 regular season games left, like that's going to be really tough for Creighton to get it back in the Big East championship conversation. So it's huge, and thankfully for the Jays, they have a little bit of time to figure things out and get their legs under them before they have to play a game of that magnitude.
Yeah. And if we're looking at St. John's remaining schedule, it's only really Marquette is a losable game for them after Creighton because they end up, they play Yukon too. So they still have to play Yukon and Marquette after that. So still a chance they drop a couple, maybe a bad one at Butler, Seton Hall, and DePaul. But you're right. In terms of winning the Big East, that game is going to be of massive magnitude. All right, before we let you go here, we're not going to get you on before the game. So just give it to me. What's the key to stopping Richardson, Ejiofor, and Luis?
Man, it's just the drop coverage. Like these, I'm trying to find the words to like, I wrote it last year before the game before the rematch at the Garden. It's like this, it's the perfect clash of styles. It really is. Like St. John's is one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the country. But they are this good for a reason, and it's because they just live in the ugliness. They love rolling around in the mud.
Yeah.
Like, they'll drag you down to the depths of hell with them, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, they want it to be a physical, messy, choppy, not free-flowing game. The complete opposite of everything Creighton wants it to be. And so I think that's the key, is just kind of trying to establish your pace early.
Yeah.
Because much like Yukon last night, like Dan Hurley did a really good job at when Creighton did get up 14 points, he immediately burned a timeout. And you know, we all know what happened next. And you just have to establish what you want to do in the Garden against St. John's. I'm assuming Rick Pitino is going to be in an all-white Armani suit. And so you just can't let that thing avalanche like it did last year.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the key, man. Just live in the mud, be comfortable in it, because Creighton's going to give up mid-range shots, and St. John's is going to take them. Last year they had a mid-range masterclass at the Garden. Will they this year? You know, we'll find out on Sunday.
We will indeed. John Walker, the Omaha World Herald. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate you coming on as always. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Talk to you. John Walker. Oh, great as always. A lot of Creighton talk. A lot of Creighton talk today, Jimmy.
Look at this.
Look at this.
Look
I mean,
what
tomorrow.
You've done. You've turned the show blue.
No. It was a big game yesterday. It was a great game yesterday.
At said game. You had fun.
It was a historic performance. It was a historic night. Dollar beer night. I'll do dollar beer night again. Don't get me wrong, but definitely, it came across to me as if it was a national holiday, and it kind of missed the mark, just a little bit with how that line wrapped around the entire stadium. But hey,
people were lining up at 7:30 in the morning for cheap beer.
Yeah.
How about
so why we didn't really get into that? Like, why did you need to do that? Like, why did they need to get there? I don't think that would have done anything. Like,
as we say back where I came from, it's not the Hawk. It's not 1 in, 1 out.
I just don't get why you would get there so early and for $1 beer. And then, like, you were going to get it anyway. So what? You getting there in front of the line, getting the 2 beers. It's just all of that for 2 extra beers.
Was anyone able to get more than 2 after? You get your 2, you're double fisting.
I saw somebody get up to 4.
Okay.
When I got my
that
2.
because of time constraints.
No, this is a good point. So I got my 2. There was someone behind me who was getting their 3rd and 4th.
Okay.
They thought they could get back in line and get it 5th or 6th. Yeah. I don't think there was anyone, unless there was some real politicking and real cutting of the line. I don't think anyone would have been able to get over 6. Maybe someone who's a little bit of a swine got it to 8. I don't think anyone got up to double digits. But hey, hell of a promotion, hell of a night, hell of a win for Yukon, hell of a performance for Liam McNeely, and a great win for Dan Hurley. And
they showed some testicular fortitude when you're down 14 and the place is foaming at the mouth. And you got the sense if they could calm it down, get it down, which they did. They get it down to 5. Then second half starts, you're fine. And as soon as it gets really close, well, now it's down to nut cutting time, and it becomes just a tension convention the rest of the way, which is exactly what happened. It was a great basketball game.
It was a great basketball game.
Watching it.
And you know what? At the end of the day, when you play great teams in a great conference like the Big East, it's all about making the big plays in the big moments. Yukon did that more yesterday than Creighton. But if you're a Creighton fan, I wouldn't be discouraged. Kalkbrenner and Ashworth probably combined together played one of their worst outings of the season, and they still almost won that game. You can make an argument that they should have.
And they need a nap today, and they can take one because many will be taking a nap.
And many will be taking a nap. Many will be trapped in. I have to apologize to the crowd. I said that this wasn't enough to shovel. I'm eating my words right now. It is coming down. Dodge is almost cleared up. I mean, not cleared up in terms of there's a lot of snow on the ground in Dodge. There are not a lot of cars on Dodge right now.
About 2 or 3. We'll end up with about 4 to 6 today.
Hopefully people stay safe out there on the roads and stay safe with us here on 1620 The Zone. We still got 40 minutes left. Brandon Vogel will be coming up at the end of the show. A little bit of Nebraska basketball, a little bit of NFL coming up next here on Gary and Matt.
Don't miss your chance to win $5,000 damn dollars with your Get Your Excrement Together giveaway. Register online for a chance to win at 1620thezone.com. Go now. I got you.
Big game yesterday for Blue Nebraska as Creighton played Omaha and fell victim to Liam McNeely and Dan Hurley by the score of 70-66. Big game for Red Nebraska tomorrow as the Nebraska Cornhuskers take on the ranked Maryland Terrapins. Good news, bad news for Nebraska basketball. Good news, Berke Buchtengel, who was playing some of his better basketball this season to end, or before he got hurt, he was playing some of his better basketball of the year. Good news is he is not out officially for the year. It's not a broken ankle.
Sure didn't look good.
It is not. Oh my God, it looked terrible. I thought he broke it when I first saw it, and then they did the replay with how, not only with how it rolled, but how hard it came down. It smashed to the ground, and then you're seeing the image of him like getting helped off the court. He couldn't put any weight on it whatsoever. I thought he was done for the year. Not officially done for the year, but the bad news, significant ankle sprain. He for sure will not be in the game tomorrow against Maryland, and I think we can say pretty confidently he won't be playing against Northwestern on Sunday. And tomorrow, and we're going to talk about it a ton when Gary is back. He's currently on the road. If you're just listening, he's
headed to one of those.
Words. Yeah. Omaha basketball takes on South Dakota State, and he'll be calling that action, but he'll be remote tomorrow. We'll talk plenty about the Mavericks, and we'll talk plenty about the Huskers game tomorrow. But I want to mention something real quick, and it'll be a major topic of what we're going to talk about 20 hours from now, is if Nebraska basketball is going to win tomorrow's game, it's going to be about Fred Hoiberg. It's going to be about a coaching masterclass. If we come back on Friday and we say, hey, the Huskers won, we are going to talk a lot about how great of a job Fred Hoiberg did juggling the lineup and trying to contrast Derek Queen and Julian Reese, who are two physical big men for the Maryland Terrapins. And to lose Berke Buchtengel at this point of the season with how he's been playing is definitely a big loss. Okay. But to lose him right before you play Maryland, but to lose him right before you play a team where you desperately need him, man, that's tough. And it's a game that Nebraska, with the momentum,
it'd be in their best interest to win.
Look, with the momentum that they have, we're talking as if they're in the tournament and they're locked in and they're going to do well. And that's because we're riding the high of a great winning streak and some really, really good basketball. But the fact is that this 6-game losing streak that happened, that we have now since, we haven't forgotten about it, but we've moved past it. How quickly did it happen, Jimmy?
Quickly.
Like that.
It's usually how it goes.
Like a snap of the fingers. You were up 15 against Iowa at the Carver Hawkeye Arena. You were on your way to victory.
That still gets me.
Dominating
it
the game.
Over. It was a 4-on-none break to make it 50-35, and Iowa looked like they'd quit.
And then Peyton Sanford just found a bazooka and just started raining down threes. You still got it to overtime. You lose that game, and then just things spiral out of control. You lost to these Maryland Terrapins. You should have won that game at Maryland, granted. But just, we're all getting a little comfortable here with the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and it's because the bubble is kind of historically bad right now. They're just the teams that are on the bubble are losing, and they keep losing, and they can't help themselves. So that's helped out Nebraska. But to lose Berke before a game that you really, really need against a team that's playing some really good basketball, it is tough. Really, really tough. And like I said, if they are going to beat Maryland, beat a ranked team at home, basically secure themselves almost in the tournament, if they were to win this game, I mean, still granted, things can happen, but it would be a massive step forward. If they're going to do it, it's going to be because Fred Hoiberg pulled a lot of great strings and had some really, really good rotations, mixing in and out Andrew Morgan and Braxton Mia. So we'll see what happens there. You want to talk a little NFL?
Okay, because
Jimmy
we have
Chavez?
NFL weather.
We have NFL weather. Well, we didn't get to it after the Super Bowl where the Eagles dismantled the Kansas City Chiefs.
Heard it here first.
What happened? Do we have breaking news?
Yeah, the Eagles beat the Chiefs.
Oh.
Congratulations.
You can't.
Philadelphia.
You can't do that. You cannot.
We'll get
I
used to
thought
it.
you had actual breaking news for a second. You
And
can't.
hey, by the way, while we have you, it's snowing outside. Back to you,
play it
Matt.
again. It's getting bad here. More and more cars are on Dodge right now, so that's good. But they're going slower and
Stay
slower.
home.
I'm eating my words. Kellyanne tweeted at me and said, and was clowning me for saying that there's not enough snow out there to shovel. I just want to say, when I said that statement, there wasn't at the time enough snow to shovel. There definitely is now. And if you have a snowblower, good on you.
Get in the bullpen.
Is everyone like when you buy a house or you have an apartment and where you need to keep your sidewalk clean and you live in the Midwest, that's got to be the very first investment you make, right?
A shovel?
A snowblower.
I mean, if you have the funds for such a thing, but
I think wouldn't you
I don't know how
say
much
a
those things
snowblower
count because snowblower
is
where I
one of-
come from usually meant some illegal activity.
It's a machine where you push down on two levers and it ruffles in snow and then it spits it out toward the grass. That's a snowblower.
I'm
talking
hearing this
about.
is more shoveling and less blowing. Although if you ask anyone today, it all blows.
It all blows. Well, this snow blows. But I'm just saying, like, that's got to be one of the things you save up for is a snowblower because I mean this weather is absolutely ridiculous. Stay safe out there. I hope you're listening. Hey, we'll transition to the NFL here. So Kansas City got dismantled by the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm a sicko. And immediately when the Super Bowl ends, I move on to the next season because that's what I do, especially when you root for an NFL team that's terrible and your Super Bowl almost as if it is my Super Bowl is like the NFL draft and what we're going to do. Before we get into that, Mr. Snow is on the line. Hey, Mr. Snow Miser, how are you? Mr. Snow, you there?
All right, we got you now.
Yeah, if you blow your snow, you're a wimp.
There you go.
Really?
Shovels forever, shovels till the day that I die.
Okay, so oh, wow.
That is a very strong opinion.
I disagree with that. Why make life on yourself tougher? Why put your back in pain? You know, people die from having heart
This just
attacks.
got dark quickly.
No, I'm saying that there are older
know.
people out there who die who have heart attacks because they're shoveling snow and their heart doesn't pump like that because they haven't lifted weights like that in quite a while, and it's very dangerous. I think that is a irresponsible take. That if you have that mindset, that probably could lead to some potential harm in you and other people's lives.
I have to sit that one out. I don't qualify. I mean, I know I've lived in the Midwest a long time, but I just didn't have to worry about these kind of things.
If you have the means to make your life easier, why wouldn't you? Seriously, why wouldn't you? If you have the money to buy a snowblower and not have to do back-breaking shoveling, why the hell would you do that?
Once again,
makes no sense.
Oh, great. Look what you've done. Now the phones are ringing all over snow.
No, call in. Let's have some snowblower talk. Screw the NFL. We don't even need to do this. Call in, talk about snowblowing. Because you know what? This is more entertaining anyway than what I think is going to happen. By the way, I was going to give 5 NFL predictions that I think will occur in the offseason. If you're curious, I think we're going to have Dave on the line here. Sam Darnold definitely going to be a Minnesota Viking. Shadur Sanders is going to drop out of the top 10. Travis Hunter probably going to go number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. And now we have David on the line. David, how you doing, my man?
Good, fellas. How you doing?
I'm doing great. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm driving. It's a little interesting, but it's not too bad.
Yeah.
But I'm going to disagree with your guys' take. I'm assuming you guys don't have. I'm assuming you guys are like apartment guys.
I'm an apartment guy. Jimmy,
I am too.
Okay, yeah,
I
we're
am
both
too.
apartment guys.
Okay. So snowblowers are great at getting the top of it off. It doesn't get those stuff on the really on the sidewalk very well. It does a crappy job. Matter of fact, it kind of packs it down. So
Okay.
then you end up with a layer of like crappy ice on the cement. And if it's really big, it's great. I have a neighbor. He's a really nice guy. When it really snows, he pulls his snowblower out and does like all of the all the sidewalk on my side of the block.
Okay.
Everybody loves him, buys him cookies and whatnot.
Yeah.
But he uses it like once or twice a year. And they're pretty darn expensive. If you have I have a house.
Yeah, I work in radio. I can't buy one.
Well, there you go. I'm a dog trainer, so we don't get paid that much for it.
Oh, nice.
But no, I have a 3-bedroom house with a pretty small, simple driveway, so I just scoop it.
So
but if you got a really big property, the snowblower makes sense. But if you don't, you got a single car garage. If
Sure,
you only
good
use it
point.
once or twice a year, maybe that at max. And then again, you've got now you have an ice base under your driveway.
Now, Dave, I gotta ask you here, David. Are you a pre-salt on the sidewalk type guy? Are you ultra prepared in terms to make sure that What do you do? What type of do you have a snow blowing or snow removal strategy, or do you just rely on your neighbor to bring out the blower?
No, I mean he just does the sidewalk. I do I'm a dog trainer, and one of the things I do is I put on rollerblades, and my dogs pull me, and so I don't want to have any ice whatsoever on my driveway.
Absolutely.
So when I scoop in the middle, do a big scoop, because when you're pushing it down, you can kind of let it drift off to the side.
Yes, that's a good point.
And so you can do, if you go like the lengthwise and you do it right in the middle, and then you do about a foot away, you get like the bulk of it off.
Okay.
And then you just go whichever direction the wind is not going, left to right, to get down to the nitty gritty, and it's a lot less. That's my little snow scooping secret.
No, I love it. No, absolutely. This is the content we need. Now, so you're on the road right now. Are you?
Yeah, we're getting road reports.
We're getting road reports. So how is it looking? Is it getting cleaner? Yeah, give me a road
from
report.
the Zone Newsroom.
Here's
the road report.
And how is it looking?
I'm currently on the South Kennedy, North Kennedy Freeway, and the whole section is completely devoid of snow.
Oh, wow. There we go, man.
The other lane's got some snow, but everybody's kind of driving slower and being more respectful of each people. So
good.
I'm going about the speed limit right now on the freeway. So not a lot of traffic. So just go slow out there. Give yourself a little extra time.
Absolutely.
And make sure you listen to 1620 the zone.
You sound. Do you want to work at time saver traffic, David? That was an incredible report.
You just saved us all the time.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. I love it.
This is great.
We know this is a community.
Yeah.
This is a community
coming together.
Do you know what sucks?
Besides winter?
Snow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Snow ice sucks more.
I'm now at the age where snow used to be the greatest thing ever. Okay? Snow came down, and I couldn't wait to get out there, to get outside, to throw snowballs at my siblings, to run around, to make snow angels, to make a fort, to go sledding. Couldn't wait to do it. I'm now at the age where snow just sucks. And it's just a nuisance. And there's nothing good that comes from it. Okay. And I hope there aren't too many kids out there listening to me talk right now, but I'm kind of spoiling it for you. At some point in your life, you realize that this little white powdery thing that comes down and sticks on the ground, it's way worse than you could ever imagine. Okay. Yeah. Can't stand it. Haven't stand it. Won't be able to.
Yeah.
Okay?
Not talking Tony Montana either. And coming up next, we'll tell you about why bills suck.
John emails into the Equitable Bank inbox. We do banking differently. John writes in, I clear my driveway and sidewalks as well as those of 3 elderly neighbors. I'm not going to shovel all of that. I'm going to use my snowblower. I'm not a moron. The shovel guy can go F himself. And the guy who can't get his walks clean with a snowblower doesn't know how to set the thing up. Johnny, from the top rope. Fremont Fred on Twitter goes, I pay my neighbors' kids to move snow.
Hell yes.
Good for them.
People.
Fred,
He's contributing to the local economy.
Fred, what do you pay the local neighbors to, or unless, well, maybe you don't want to
pay
mention how much you pay the local neighbors, how much to move the snow. But it's got to be a pretty good, what do you think is an appropriate amount to give the neighbors' kids when they shovel snow? I think $10
once again,
each.
I don't know. What do they do where you're from? Because the only thing the neighbors gave us were Bibles, Jehovah's Witness, and Girl Scout cookies.
So I was that family, and my dad was that guy. We had the industrial Johnson snowblower that.
But you guys got the snow.
Way too much money, and we got the snow a lot. And we would do our driveway, and then we lived 5 houses away from my grandmother's house, so we would snow blow all the way to grandma's house. So we would do the entire sidewalk up to her house, then do the driveway, and then. We had some elderly neighbors where we would go up and we would do their walkway.
Shout out old people.
The most I ever got, I was given $50. Okay. And my dad made me walk back to the house and give the $50 back to the elderly woman. Fremont Fred said $20. Is that $20 a person or is that $20 total? $20 a person would seem steep. Wouldn't you say?
You know what? I'll take a 20 right now. I'm not going to shovel anything, but I'll just take a 20 and go get some lunch for us.
I am not going to be hired to shovel anybody's snow today. Okay. I am hopping in my car. I am driving home and I'm going to bed. Okay?
I have a dog that's waiting for me.
A lazy Wednesday for your Matt McMaster. One guy who isn't lazy, who's coming on the show right now, is Mr. Brandon Vogel of Counter Read. Stay tuned. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. Little rock to end the show. A little rock to roll you into the rest of your Wednesday, where I don't think anyone is going outside if you're in the Omaha, Lincoln, or Nebraska area. We are joined by the very nice hat today, by the way, Mr. Brandon Vogel of counterread.com. Brandon, before we get started, before we get into the nitty-gritty of Nebraska football and Nebraska volleyball and all the great things that you write about on counterread.com, very important question. Are you a shovel or snowblower guy?
Well, in my location, a shovel is all that's required. But I grew up on a farm in western Nebraska. So my dad definitely had a snowblower, and I mean,
and
at
it used to smell
times,
more.
yes, and at times, you'd get not a lot of trees out there, so a lot of blowing snow and drifting. Like at certain points, you just got the tractor out with the payloader on front, and did it that way, so the school bus could get into your driveway off of a dirt road.
That's awesome. At some point, you go, F that. We're bringing out the heavy duty mechanical wear. Hey, so Brandon, look, the first cycle of the Nebraska offseason is essentially over. The transfer portal guys are in. The enrollment period is done. The coaching staff is all done, hired. Okay. So you're looking at this coaching staff and you're like, man, they went out and they invested a pretty penny. I mean, they paid a high amount for Dana Holgerson. They made sure they got John Butler. They bought out Da'Keil Shorts from Kentucky. They went out, they paid a nice dollar to get Mike Eckler from Tennessee. Does the amount of money that they invested into the staff and does the amount of experience and winning on the staff raise the expectations higher for you for this Nebraska football season?
I think it should. It's a tough one because I think there's a lot of factors. So all the things that you just mentioned, like the investment level, and this is kind of, I think, when you look at the House settlement that we assume is forthcoming, kind of I think a breaking point in college athletics, like a pre-era and a post-era. And in some ways, being able to invest that much, even knowing revenue sharing is probably coming, represents a lot of what Nebraska's, I guess, fiscal responsibility in terms of an athletic department to this point. Kind of the other side to that coin is like it needs to work, and it needs to work in terms of timeline, like entering year 3 under a new coaching staff. So, we'll see what happens during spring ball, whether I change my evaluation of the team and whether I think higher expectations are fair. But to your point, I guess the question you actually asked, I think expectations should be raised a little bit.
What do you make of, and the answer could be you make absolutely nothing of it. And, that might be a valid answer, but of Dylan Raiola and Emma Johnson not parading around, but going and doing the Omaha tour and going to different high schools and really touring the state and getting out there. Is it one of those things? Some people it bothers. I'm kind of indifferent about it as long as, they end up playing well on the field. Is it, from an optics perspective, just is there any viewpoint you have on it? I mean, should we even be talking about this?
I mean, it's the sort of thing you talk about in the depths of the football offseason on a snow day, no less. But I don't think there's any downside to it, really.
Yeah.
Like, I think we know from the type of players that Emmett and Dylan, even though we're only a year in, have been. Like, I'm not worried about them, not putting in the time for what helps them on Saturday. And if you don't have that concern, then it's mostly upside. Get out there. And I think the biggest thing for me is it shows a level of commitment to Nebraska, which, we know that can change at any point and with the transfer portal. But for now, I view that as a pretty solid vote of confidence.
The Memorial Stadium project or the renovation of it is going to be announced soon. We already had a plan placed in front of us, and then the person who placed that plan left. Let's go back, and if what you remember from that original plan, what do you think are things that Troy Dannon needs to address and maybe needs to change, tweak, or add to this new and upcoming plan that is set to be revealed fairly soon?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference that I've noticed so far in projecting a little bit, like when Trev Alberts, unveiled that, it was kind of soup to nuts. Like, here's what we're doing, and he was very careful to make the point on certain aspects that like Nebraska needed to do that, and that's still the case now. I think we're going to see a little bit of a more gradual rollout. I mean, the Alberts thing, his initial plan, like we were talking about not having South Stadium for a season, which, you kind of bought it of like, well, if you say it, this is the best way to do it, I kind of take you at your word. I'd be surprised if Nebraska is kind of willing to go there. And, from the time that Albert's plan was unveiled to now, the things have changed in terms of college football, fiscally, for sure. So I'll be interested to see. I think it'll be a little bit more of a gradual upgrade than, what they did. But to a certain degree, if you're gonna, take down stands and do those sorts of things, you want to do as much of it as you can at one time, because it's gonna be more expensive down the road.
When do you think is going to be the moment we realize, all right, this is different when it comes to Danny Busboom Kelly? When do you think is the moment we're going to be like, oh, okay, it's her program now. It's not John Cook's program.
Yeah, it's a really good one. I'm guessing it'll probably be into Big Ten play, because Nebraska it has the schedule that John Cook created for it, and that is one that's meant to get them ready for conference play, and they'll be challenged. They'll play top 5 teams, and win or lose, it won't be something like that changes it. It'll probably be something in a post game press conference. One of the things with Cook, he always said it was harder to win the Big Ten title than the national title. And you kind of, I think as the seasons wore on, you felt the weight of that.
Yeah.
If we got a little bit later in the year and Coach Busboom Kelly maybe didn't show that as much, that would be a sign to me that like, oh, it's not just like walk in the door, put on your John Cook jacket and keep things rolling. It's walk in the door and make it yours.
And there's a bit of a different vision too. If she just came and said, "Oh, I'm here to win national championships," like, "Oh, the Big Ten is nice, but I'm here to win national championships." That's a great point, Brandon. That definitely would be a bit of a change. And I think, to John's credit though, I think a lot of people agreed with that sentiment that, man, winning the Big Ten is gargantuan, and it's an incredible accomplishment. From an on-court perspective, I know you kind of said, yeah, maybe not, but from a recruiting perspective, these teams in the last couple of years have been really rooted in defense, and that's kind of what this program's been. But with Danny Busboom Kelly, like at Louisville, they were a high-powered offense. Do you think just the recruiting in general of targeting certain prospects at different positions and putting more an investment in certain positions as opposed to what Cook is doing is something that we might see?
Yeah, I think you could eventually. It'll be. You have the luxury at Nebraska of being able to kind of recruit the best, no matter where they're at. I mean, Nebraska's had 2 of the best liberos in the country back to back, and that's the sort of thing I think you're probably referencing is like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like John Cook's going to get the best like floor player he can. Does the focus shift to getting one of those top line outside hitters? Not that Nebraska's been lacking in that regard. But in the matches that you see them lose, you often see them come up against just an outside hitter who's 3% more of a physical freak than everybody is on the Nebraska team, and they tend to take over a match, and that's what we saw a little bit more at Louisville. So I think there will be a little bit of a spin on it, but. As a former setter and libero, I think I'm not too worried about Nebraska's defense falling too far.
Brandon Vogel of counterread.com. Brandon, before I let you go here, is there anything that you're working on, anything we should know, anything that we should be on the lookout for that you're releasing pretty soon on Counterread?
Yeah, so on Monday, I kind of gave a broad update on Nebraska basketball and like where it's standing in most of the tournament outlook, which I'm sure you guys talked about a bunch. Tomorrow, I've been digging into Eckler and trying to get detail focused on like what he did at Tennessee from a numbers perspective, and it's pretty eye opening. When you combine all 4 years, he had one of the top 14 runs of any team in the country. Nebraska, that over that same stretch, ranked I think 127th. So if you just swap one for the other, boy, we'll see special teams of a level that we haven't seen for a while. But
I mean, that's wins though. That's potential wins right there. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, that's incredible insight. So hey, we got to get going. Thank you so much, Brandon. I really appreciate it, my man. We'll see you here same time next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
See you, boss. Brandon Vogel, counterread.com. Always great to get his insight. I'm going to read that Eckler article. My goodness. I mean, it's going to be a stark contrast from the special teams unit you've seen the last couple of years, special teams unit you might see in the next couple of years. Yeah, not your grandmother's special teams, as one might say.
And I don't have to tell anyone here, but Crash is a different dude. He's a hell of a coach. So they're very lucky to have him. And you'll see they'll make some strides and you'll see improvement pretty quickly.
That program needs a guy like that. That guy, got a ton of energy, balls to the wall, is going to want to win, a dude who just wants physicality. It's a great ad for this Nebraska football program. Hey, you've been listening to Gary Mann on 1620 The Zone. We'll be back tomorrow. Gary will be on the road. I'll be here in studio with Mr. Jimmy Chavez. I want to thank you so much for listening here on 1620 The Zone.